TRG Radio.
If you ever get in the fighting game scene, it didn't matter if it was Soul Calibur, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Persona 4 Arena. I play like 60 different fighting games. Not 60, maybe 10. But still, like every person I talk on there that's like fanboys, like the good guys, they're all a bunch of fucking gangsters. They're a bunch of, I guess I could say they're all my niggas.
TRG Radio, episode number 4. My name is Matt, but you can call me dumbfounded. I don't know, I can't make fun of myself, but I can make fun of my co-host, Carl the Dragon Rider.
Hey everybody, I'm the Dragon Rider apparently.
And he whose soul is darkened, Jeph with a PH.
Yeah, I have a very evil soul.
I'll work on the introductions, I promise. For gamers, by gamers, we are the real gamers. Alright, we have another great show today. Though it was actually a slow news week. Pretty much every week was going to be this way until E3. But have no fear, DRM talk is here. Also some words about Microsoft apparently poised to own E3 this year, according to them anyways. And Carl and Jeff's top 10 most memorable villains in gaming. Or at least Carl's top 10 and Jeff's other. I'll throw my 2 cents in there too, but I didn't prepare a list either for this one.
I at least got 3. At least got 3, so don't worry.
Yeah, I've got 0. I'm going to agree with a couple of Carl's, and that's about it. But we'll get there. Also, a discussion about The Last of Us demo will immediately follow. What we're playing. All right. And I'll have some kind of cool soundbite there at some point, so that's not such a awkward transition. But anyways, so this week I've been playing a lot of throwback games. I did a lot of Final Fantasy 13. I guess me and Carl touched on some Dungeons and Dragons Daggerdale. We'll have that article up soon, a little review of that. The game's great though. for what it is, it's great.
I'll give you that.
I do need to look up how much it costed when it first dropped, because that is not
$15.99. I already did it. $15.99.
That's gonna hurt its review score. It's a little bit overpriced if you ask me, but
you know what's even more overpriced? The actual Dungeons and Dragons books. I'm not gonna get into that, but yeah, they're pretty expensive if you want most of them.
Never read one. Dungeons and Dragons, the game, hell, just getting the what's it called, the Dungeon Master's Companion, that can be pretty expensive. I wouldn't know anything about that though. I'm not that geeky. Oh
yeah, you're cooler than me.
Yeah, I am.
Matt's cooler than me because he doesn't know the Dungeon Master's guy.
Fucking right.
Whatever. You judge me right now just because I have some Dungeons and Dragons books, Matt. Okay.
What's a
and those dice were expensive.
What's a 20-sided dice? I have no idea. I've never rolled one. I don't know.
You're bad.
Anyways, a couple other games I've been playing. D&D, like I said. What else? I touched on Sleeping Dogs. I've been having a hard time getting through that one. And I always get to this place with sandbox games. I'll play a sandbox game. Even GTA 4, I did the same fucking thing. I played it. It's freaking a blast. And then just at some point, I'm like, I'm just kind of done with it, you know? I can't find a way to get through it. I don't know what's up with that.
I totally get you on that. Like with Grand Theft Auto 4, at least Sleeping Dogs doesn't have the intense multiplayer that Grand Theft Auto 4 did when it launched. Because I remember I was like, oh, Grand Theft Auto with multiplayer. So I was playing, you know, cops and robbers and shit. But I didn't even know that you could fly out your windshield until this asshole ran my car. And I went fucking flying and I was dead. And I was like, dude, what the hell just happened? And I was completely hooked for like probably a couple months after that. So I know where you're coming from with open box games.
Should I feel bad? Because in the campaign, I found out real fast that you could fly out the windshield. That happened day one for me.
I can't get anywhere in sandbox games. Like, I'll play Grand Theft Auto, and they'll lay the story out. Like, oh, your guy just got out of prison or whatever, and now he's trying to do more stuff that will put him in prison. I don't know what the plot is. And I go out on the street, and it's like, all right, there's a hooker. You can punch her. So I punch her, and I get, like, I don't know, $500. And then I go punch a cop, and then I get a rocket launcher. So now I have to blow up the whole city. So after I blow up the whole city, you know, it's like 30 minutes later, and I got like SWAT teams chasing me, and there's dead hookers everywhere, and I don't even remember what the hell the plot is. I have no idea how to go forward at that point. So I can't do sandbox games at all. I don't end up anywhere near where I'm supposed to be at any point.
And that's the kind of the opposite for me, because I try to play through the story, and to be fair, some of these stories are quite good. GTA 4 kind of lacked, but Sleeping Dogs' story is excellent, and I'll start to go do all that crazy shit on the side, and then I have to stop myself, and I don't know, that kind of kills the fun for me.
Yeah, you guys are in for it though, because my next review is going to be Saint Row 3, so be ready for that, because that's a goddamn entertaining game.
Is it? Saints Row
Oh
4.
yeah, you have no idea.
Saints Row 4 is coming out, side note. But yeah, I never actually got into 3. I heard a lot of people talk about it. It's supposedly like insane.
You're probably one of those people that can't turn their brain off. You got to be able to just turn your brain off and go with it. You can't really think about what's going on. If you do that too much, you'll be like, what the, I just fell off a 100-story building and now I'm, fighting UFOs and shit. You really just got to let yourself go with that game.
Yeah, I don't have a problem turning my brain off most of the time, but you're right. When I'm gaming, yeah, that's kind of, there's no off button. That's just the way it is.
Sadly, I'm the same way. I always my big thing is always looking for bugs and glitches to either exploit or just have fun with. So I have a hard time doing that.
You're one of
You're the reason people hate making games.
Yep, I'm one of those guys.
You're the reason they made Superman 64. You're like, Carl likes bugs and glitches, huh? Well, wait till he gets a load of this. They made Daikatana for you, too. I hope you're happy about that. You're the reason for Daikatana, Carl.
Yep.
You heard it here first.
Me.
Superman 64 was Carl's middle finger.
Exactly. Find all these glitches. Find something that isn't a glitch.
Yeah, that's the shorter list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Don't forget to mention, Matt, that we did the first couple missions on Fuse the other day.
I was getting to that. Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to shut you up, but yeah, I'm getting to that. We did the first couple of missions of Fuse the other day. We grabbed it on Tuesday. I am Carl's alter ego. He game shared it with me, and I can say that because Sony has gone public and said that they don't mind game sharing. I can say it anymore. So I'm that guy. Wait, you didn't game share it, did you? See, I'm tripping.
No, that just came out of Sites funds, so I mean we're good.
Okay. So yeah, we played through that. I didn't want to talk too much about it. I was gonna actually go into that a little bit more later, but it's interesting. I actually played earlier today with Kyle from over from our unofficial affiliate PS Addiction. We played for I guess about 45 minutes, kind of late in the game, and it's basically the same later on too, which is one of the knocks on it. It's pretty much the same game all the way through. Entertaining, but blah, But outside of that, touched on Ni no Kuni, found out I had to power level my guy a little, or grind a little bit to reach the next part of the story. So that kind of turned me off a little bit. So I didn't play that one too much. And what else? Boy, I played a lot of different stuff this week. Got into the Last of Us demo today. I'll talk about that in a bit. A little bit of God of War Ascension. I ran the gamut. I went through my recent game acquisitions and went ahead and played them all. So that's what I've been playing. How about you, Carl?
Always do the Tekken Tag tournament too. I guess last week I won the title of being a team leader, so I've been doing that, teaching people how to play and stuff like that. And then I guess there's a local tournament next week in Boston, and I'll be fighting for my team over there, so I'm looking forward to that. And then, I did Fuse with Matt, and the only thing I really have to add to Fuse is I had a blast with it. The main character in that has some of the greatest one-liners I have ever heard, and I won't say any of them on here, but dude, I was laughing like crazy. Some of the shit this guy was saying, it's all one-liners. So if you're into one-liners, you got to pick up Fuse, because that shit is really funny.
Yeah, I agree. They got some good dialogue, and I will say that later in the game, like I said, I played some later missions with Kyle earlier, and he doesn't stop. There was a couple other times I just had to laugh out loud.
Yeah, so that was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. It's definitely a worthy buy. And just before we're gonna write a review for it, we're gonna do a new TRG exclusive kind of. It's called like a double team, so it's gonna be both of us playing co-op or any type of multiplayer game between us, and kind of saying like how the team works, how the emphasis on like teamwork goes, and things like that. So that's coming probably next week. I'd say like shoot for Wednesday, you'll see something like that. And then I did the Dungeons and Dragon thing, and I mean the game for what it was worth, maybe not worth $15.99, but it was definitely fun. And if you're into dungeon crawlers, I definitely recommend it. It's really good. And then I think, yeah, it was yesterday. I downloaded Night Underground or whatever it's called. It's free for PlayStation Plus users. It's a phenomenal indie game. It's like a platformer slash puzzler, but it goes back to the basics. It's like a side scroller, kind of has like the Metroid exploration. Like you look around, you find artifacts and stuff. The storyline's kind of cool, but I'm actually going to do a review for that. I'll have that up for you guys on Monday. And then other than that, I really haven't really played anything else. I've been putting most of my time into the site. Probably in the next 2 weeks, you'll see a launch of a forum so you guys can post topics, tell us what you want us to review and things that you're interested in. So that's coming, so you guys have something to look forward to. And then just a side note with some of the stuff that was happening with Sony, there was a misconception. Shuhei Yoshida, which is a guy for PlayStation.
The guy. He's the man.
He's the man.
He's not the man, but like he's the
man. But there was a post
about.
That said that DRM was coming for the PlayStation Vita, and people were like, "Oh, well, is that like where I can't use used games and can't sell used games?" And it's a huge misconception. It's been clarified on several magazines and stuff that they are not going to block used games and all these fancy codes and shit. And DRM actually stands for Death Ray Manta, which originated from it's an Android game and an iOS game, and it's I think it was free to play with ads on it, and then you could go pro. But that's coming out for the Vita.
Wait a second, you're not kidding about this? Like
No, I'm not kidding about this. It was a huge deal. Like I mean.
Oh, so he's saying DRM was happening on Vita and people twisted that. Got it.
Oh yeah, dude. They thought it was let me look at it. I just had it pulled up because I wanted a reference here. Digital rights management. They thought it was digital rights management for the Vita. No, it was.
Death Manta was Monster that fought Godzilla.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a big monster that fought Godzilla. That's what it sounds like. Anyways.
I mean, that's what it sounds like. I personally have never played it, didn't look into it too much, but when I heard that Sony announced that they were going to do something with the digital rights management movement, which I guess Xbox is going to do, or so has been rumored, like everybody in the industry has been like, oh, what are they going to do with the used games and whatever. But yeah, the DRM was misconceived by a Twitter user from this post. It's Death Ray Manta, or whatever the hell it's called, and it's actually a Android game and an iOS. So if you guys were freaking out like, oh, I can't get used games, don't worry about it too much, because he was just talking about a game that was coming out by an indie company. So nothing to worry about.
Death Ray Manta sounds like a boss in a Metal Gear game.
Oh yeah, I mean, and if it does come out on the PlayStation Network, hopefully next week, I will pick it up and I'll review it for you guys. And I'll probably put some cheesy side notes on there like, oh, you guys thought it was digital rights management or whatever. You guys should chill out. It's actually a pretty cool game, so you just stand by for that. But that's all I've been doing.
Now, who got that mixed up? Because I think I remember that tweet, and I if I remember right, the way I read it and the way I think others read it, at least the people I was kind of in touch with, it was he said that because somebody asked him about DRM, and then he said Death Ray Manta, I believe it was, and as a joke. So there were actually people who got confused about that out there.
Yeah, like, and I've seen many times, like, and I was looking on between N4G, which has all the information from all the game sites. They posted up there to get a little extra publicity, get their name out there, and they were all saying that it was digital rights movement. But then I think it was Kotaku.com. They actually contacted Sony support, and they said, hey, what's up with this digital rights management? I want to put this information on my site and stuff like that. And they said, no, DRM is actually a game that's coming out, and that our main guy that just posted that, it was misconceived because originally he just typed DRM in apostrophes coming to the PlayStation Vita. So a lot of people pulled it, and then the website I'm on right now, it said there was some guy that retweeted it and then did like a little comment ad. I don't really know the Twitter talking, whatever the shit is.
Twitter
I'm not good
lingo.
with Twitter. Yeah, there you go, Twitter lingo.
You
So
tweet.
there was a guy, I guess the guy that started the shit was Shahid Kamel Ahmad, which I'm not really good at pronouncing that, but it said, "That's right, Shuhi, we are having quote unquote DRM on PlayStation Vita." It had 280 retweets and 15 favorites. So that leads me to believe that was kind of like the cancer and the poison to Sony. And people were like, they retweet the retweet, and it goes on and so forth through all the industry, and people are freaking out at that point. So I really think it was just a typo, an error, and people really didn't want to put it in there. So it's nothing to worry about.
Well, I'm not worried. I don't have a Vita yet.
But other than that, I really haven't been playing anything. I just wanted to clarify that because I was doing a little bit of research earlier rather, and I just wanted to get that out there because I was just concerned as the other people. When you hear something like that, you kind of freak out, and then you want to find everything you want on that. So that should clear it up a little bit for you guys.
Excellent. Excellent clarification, Carl.
I feel it does weird though. Like, why would somebody put digital rights management coming to PlayStation Vita? It seems like a really bad advertisement, like for what you're gonna have.
Somebody's going to have to do it at some point for one of these consoles.
Yeah,
I wouldn't put it as like a banner tweet or anything, though. That's true.
Yeah, it'd probably be something that you have to like admit with a spin on it in the middle of like a reveal.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and like I've told people that have asked me, like we have a Facebook page and all that stuff, and people are constantly asking me about it, and I keep saying the real gamers are not going to say anything until it comes out of the mouth of the beast. So until somebody from Sony or somebody from Microsoft verbally says, "Hey, we're going to have this digital rights management," I'm not going to condone it, and I'm not going to deny it until it comes to the point where, yeah, it's inevitable. Either they're doing it or they're not.
Right on.
Fair enough. All right, Jeph.
We're better than politicians.
Are we? I'd like to think so.
I'd say that until we did the Xbox One piece last time. I don't know. We seem a little biased.
Yes.
I really tried. I tried. I tried to be objective, but this thing is not looking so hot.
Yeah, you know what they say though, Matt. You can't fix stupid. You can't fix stupid.
This is true.
You can't.
Hey, wait.
But you can.
You're not referring to me, are you?
No.
Can't fix stupid, but you can play Call of Duty while you watch Sex in the City at the same time. So, that's something.
Brilliant.
So Jeph, what are you playing now? I think I took too much time there.
It's okay. I'm playing 2 games. I'm playing Dark Souls, and I'm playing pick up the plastic shattered shards of my controller from throwing it at the wall after playing Dark Souls. Those are the 2 games that I'm actually playing right now.
Now, who developed that second one? Was it that's you, right? You're doing that.
Yeah. I actually came up with it. I started posting YouTube videos about who could do it quicker. How fast can you put your controller back together after losing to this boss? It's become like a pretty big thing.
I'm sorry, I'm going to go on a tangent here, but I've actually taken apart and put together some DualShock 3s, and those things are a pain in the ass to assemble, man.
Actually, I love the Xbox One, but Sony became like my biggest fans after all the like controller sales from Dark Souls after I made my new game by putting your controllers back together. So I kind of had to hate on them, last week or whatever while we were doing that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, that's what I'm playing. I really, it's a love-hate relationship with Dark Souls. Like, I love the feeling of success. It's really like a woman. Like, you love the feeling of success you get when you conquer it. And then you realize, like $400 and, 48 hours later, how much time and money you wasted just to get that feeling. So it's really a trade-off. But at the end of the day, I like that game. I actually like it a lot. And I'll probably be posting a review within the next 2 or 3 days on it. So
yeah, I'm totally with you with the Dark Souls thing. And I had a funny thing happen to me, and this is quote-unquote spoiler alert, I guess. But the second boss you fight on a bridge or some shit, it's a giant demon with wings and a big axe or a sword or whatever the fuck he had. But I'm fighting him, and he goes to attack me, and I know that you can get a special weapon from his tail. So I'm trying to get his tail, but he goes to attack me, and I dodge, and he fucking falls off the bridge. Instant kill, didn't get the fucking weapon, and it kind of ruined the game for me after that. So I haven't played since, but like I'm totally with you. Like it's frustrating. Like it's one of those things, like you die, you lose everything you had except for what was in your inventory, but you lose all your souls, all your experience, and then you got to go back. So I'm totally with you on that. It's frustrating as shit.
See, I figured it'd be your favorite game because that game at some points is so cheap that you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna find a glitch. I'm gonna do something. Just like fuck this dude. This dude's an asshole. You're gonna do whatever you can to like beat it. And you just love the glitches and shit, Carl. So I figured you'd be all about that. I mean, when he fell off the bridge, that should have been like your Christmas, right?
Well, it was pretty cool, but at the same time, like my buddy was telling me that that weapon that you get from his tail was a badass weapon, so I felt like I was a little bit robbed. And the autosave totally fucked me over because he died. Guess what happened? It saved over it, so like I couldn't go back and get that badass weapon.
Oh yeah, that's a thing that'll happen in the game too. There'll be like NPCs who just look evil. Like you'll be fighting demons for 48 hours straight with no sleep using caffeine soap or whatever, and suddenly there will be a demon that is actually a good guy, and you'll go on a forum a few hours later to find out that that guy sold this shit that you needed, but he fucking looks like he wants to murder you, so you probably killed him, and now your entire game is screwed. And I hope you like New Game Plus. It does a bunch of stuff like that that's really frustrating that you can't go back on, but I like it. So
You almost threw that one then?
yeah. I pretty much just have the end boss left. I did the DLC, which I'm going to include in my review, and I'm normally not a fan of DLC. I think make your game, that's it. But I feel that it's something that legitimately is worth the money. If it's something, if the game can stand on its own well, if it's a great game in its own right, and then the DLC is like something to extend your experience and to make it that much richer, then I'm all for it. And that's actually the case in Demon's Souls. So I'll be including that in my review.
Yeah,
But,
I've got some friends who are who've been asking me lately. All right, you're gonna get the season pass for The Last of Us. I'm like, let me see what the game has to offer first. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna be a great game, but if it appears worthwhile, I'm a fan of DLC too. But I'm not gonna go purchase DLC on any old game. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. It's if it's for a game that you're not that into, I feel DLC is like a really, I don't know, like cheap tactic almost to get money. But you can tell if the developers really put time into the DLC. If it's like, if it's something where when you play the DLC, you feel like this is whatever game it is, 1.5 on the way to like the sequel, then, that's fine. But I mean, so the DLC for this game isn't horse armor. It's okay. So I'll be including that in my review, definitely.
You've also been playing some Twisted Metal, right?
No. Yeah, damn it. Yeah, I have been playing some...
Sounds like your guilty pleasure.
It's not like a guilty pleasure. It's more like a guilty... It's just guilt. It's actually just guilt. Like, I probably shouldn't still be playing that game, but I have a lot of friends, and I love Twisted Metal so much that, yeah, I've been playing a lot of Twisted Metal.
Yeah.
I'm, like, slow to do a review on it because it's been out for over a year, and, there's no developer support for it, but, yeah, I'll probably be playing this Twisted Metal until another Twisted Metal comes out, just because I love Twisted Metal. But
Or Auto Duel.
Or Auto Duel. I would like to do something on Auto Duel when that comes out.
Hey, with Jaffe's involvement, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with this thing. It sounds promising.
Good, bad, he at least makes it interesting.
This is true.
Heroes. That's why he's one of my heroes, man.
Yep. I mean, I totally get the whole guilty pleasure thing. Like, I'm a huge White Knight Chronicles fan, and like, if anybody knows me, yeah, I spend a lot of time on it. But it's my guilty pleasure, and there's only what do we got? 16 days left until they shut off the servers. So, I mean, I'll probably spend some time on there. Same thing. I don't play it for the game as much as I do for the people that are there because the community was so good.
Mm-hmm. You make friends, and that can really help the longevity of a game, honestly,
Yeah,
because. That's why multiplayer matters. I mean, multiplayer originated you sitting down with your friend to play a game that enhanced the experience. This is, the exact same thing. So I'll probably be at least casually playing Twisted Metal for a long time. And I hope you're okay when White Knight Chronicles goes down. And if you need somebody to talk to, you can talk to me. Or
there's definitely going to be an article up. And I mean, a good sign, like if anybody out there is a White Knight Chronicles fan, they're keeping the Japanese servers on, and they're making it pretty easy to transfer your character over to a Japanese account. So, I mean, not all hope's lost. And I'll put an article up on how to do that here shortly.
Oh, desperation.
Like,
Admittance
Yeah.
is the first thing you need to do, Carl. You just need to admit that it's over. But if you do have problems, letting go of White Knight Chronicles, and I'm busy, probably playing Twisted Metal, I know of a great therapist. He's been helping me with this Dark Souls ordeal, so
Yeah,
I'll give you his number, and you can go ahead and talk with him.
That sounds great.
yeah, he's not gonna have issues.
He's almost affordable, so you'll really like it.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14 is coming, and I have a feeling he might forget about White Knight at that point.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later after that. There won't be too many reviews for me.
I don't know. I'm going to be very careful. I'm definitely jumping onto that bandwagon, but I got to watch out. I had a bad experience with EverQuest. I've mentioned this on a prior podcast. I won't go into it, but I fear MMOs. They consume you. They really do.
Yep. You want to get on the bandwagon, but to quote Ric Flair, you find out that hopping on's a lot easier than hopping off. Woo.
Woo.
So, MMOs are careful because
Nice.
next thing you know, your fingers are covered in Cheeto powder and you don't know where the last 6 months went, and you're trying to collect pauldrons. What the hell are pauldrons? Did Blizzard make that up? I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, you got to be careful with MMOs is the point I'm trying to get at here.
Point taken. All right, I guess it's time to get in some real news-ish stuff. I did want to start off this segment by talking about the Last of Us demo. It released this morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and the servers for PSN promptly crashed for 70 minutes because everybody tried to download it at once. Everybody who owns God of War, out of a million because about 1 million copies of God of War Ascension were sold, and I don't know how many of those people tried to download it immediately, but as of the first 10 seconds of that demo hitting the PlayStation Store for us, it crashed. It was gone. About 11:10-ish is when somebody was nice enough to send me a PSA message. I was able to download it at that point. Downloaded 2.2 gigabytes in about 10 minutes. So whatever they did, the connection was not an issue at that point. 2 gigs in 10 minutes is fast even for my connection, which is pretty good. So I went ahead, downloaded that. Let's see. Yeah. I'll give my quick reaction here. The first thing you'll notice as soon as you start the game up is the thing looks fantastic. I mean, it is this demo. I don't know if it has any more polishing after this demo was put together. I would be highly surprised because this thing looks amazing. It's the best graphics by far I have seen on PlayStation 3, on any console for that matter. I don't know. I haven't played too many Xbox 360 games, but to my knowledge, they don't look as good as PlayStation exclusives. And Naughty Dog pretty much has it down. It has putting graphics into their games down to a science. So, and this game really shows it. I mean, this thing is amazing. It's got a much slower pace. You can feel the Uncharted engine in it, but it has a much slower pace. It's got a completely different feel. You can feel the mechanics of your guy moving around, but he's much slower. He just kind of even if you hold L2 to run, he doesn't run. It's a jog, and just the entire game, it's a slower pace. There's much more to explore. The maps are not so. I guess we were talking earlier with Jeph. He was mentioning how Final Fantasy 13 suffers from being a little bit too much of a corridor. The Last of Us does not have that problem. I mean, it's wide open. You can go 100 different directions. You really got to explore these maps to find out where to go next, how to get there. The commentary is great with your other characters. I mean, and all of this took place in the matter of I believe it was a half an hour it took me to get through it on hard. You actually got to play it on the hard difficulty setting, not the hardest, but on hard, and it took about a half an hour. Got a good feel for the combat. There's one pretty good encounter where you get to use basically all the moves that I think will be in the game, from melee to using picked up weapons to pulling out your gun and shooting, all of it. I mean, this thing, it was impressive. It was super short. Like I said, this was a half an hour, and this was with me exploring the whole damn thing. I went everywhere I possibly could, tried to find every pickup I could find, and it still only took me a half an hour. But I think to Naughty Dog's credit, that was a brilliant idea to make it so short, because I was left just wanting more. Last of Us is going to be an amazing game. I cannot wait to see it come out. And at this point, that's about all I have to say in reaction to this demo. I'm going to let Jeph rip it apart now, because he promised me he was going to.
Well, before I go off, I should say, I don't know much about it necessarily. Can you give me a couple spoilers on the plot that you know, and how much was revealed in the demo?
No, I will not. I wouldn't spoil myself. So, as far as the demo goes, I'll tell you the entire plot of the demo. Yeah, and this isn't much of a spoiler. If you don't want a spoiler, go ahead and mute this right now. But there's not much of a plot spoiler here. You're there. I guess. Okay, I'll tell you what. It's this guy. He's the post-apocalyptic world. Some kind of fungus has taken over the world and basically killed off most of humanity. And he's protecting this little girl. There's this guy protecting this little girl, and they're on some sort of journey. So, is that a good enough setup?
Yeah, that's fine. I guess I have issues with anything that seems like it's zombie related at this point. And I got like a sort of Walking Dead, like everybody's gone and there's just monsters waiting around sort of feel from what I, read about it. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, it's very fair, especially after playing the demo and seeing the trailer afterwards. You see a lot of things that, if you've ever seen The Walking Dead, the themes appear in it a lot. Those same themes.
Well, before even The Walking Dead came out, I read World War Z, and I read the Zombie Survival Guide, which if you have it, you need to, because nothing has really like surpassed it in terms of like zombie lore or breaking them down scientifically. But I watched my friend play The Killing Floor, and it has his invisible zombies. Resident Evil has zombies with like giant sword arms. There's zombies that throw up on you. There's like gorilla zombies. There's pretty much nothing else you can do with zombies at this point. I'm loath to play a game with zombies in it at this point. It's such like a huge cultural phenomenon that just sort of like shot out of nowhere and that took over everything, that the entire subplot or main plot of zombies is just not interesting to me whatsoever. And the whole idea of like survival with civilization gone too, that goes hand in hand with zombies. And at one point I thought it was pretty neat, and I think if you do it like Borderlands and stuff, it can be cool, but that also doesn't interest me necessarily. So I probably won't be the one to review the game because I'll be pretty biased.
Oh, no, it's me all the way. I claimed this one 6 months ago.
So, like, as a disclaimer, whatever I say about The Last of Us, if anybody asks me, which you probably won't be essentially like gameplay based or have anything to do with the actual merits of the game, especially because Naughty Dog is that good. They're that damn good. They make great games. They do exactly what they set out to do. When they decide this is what we want to accomplish with this game, this is the sort of feeling we want to get across, this is what we want the player to do, they really, hammer it down and get that. So, but man, I'm bored of zombies.
And you know what? I can't fault you for that at all. And from what I've read about The Last of Us, and even playing the demo, I think it's right on. It's more of the same. This isn't a zombie game. They have said that, but I think they were smart not to like say, "Damn it, this isn't a zombie game," because it is. It really is. So I feel you there.
I don't know if that's like some sort of like an M. Night Shyamalan plot twist they're trying to throw in there, but I don't know. The fungus seems kind of weird, but it's better than zombies. So, I'll give him at least that. So thanks for the fungus, Naughty Dog. I appreciate it. You probably won't hear that statement too often from people, but thanks for the fungus, man.
Yeah, and it's transmitted a little different because you got these infected, and they can attack you, and they don't necessarily transfer the fungus. But if you're bit by a fully mutated fungus person, then you will die. So, I don't know. Just throwing that out there. It's got some subtle differences between zombieism, but it really is just it's another zombie game. But
is it got one of those things where like they try to be really cool with the zombies, like their head gets infected, but then they just look really silly with a big head? Like, are there just people with like mushrooms coming out of them and like it's not scary anymore because it's comical? Did you come across any of that?
It is not comical, but I will tell you the clickers do look exactly like you explained. Giant heads with, they're not mushrooms, but they're some kind of fungal matter coming out of them. No eyes.
Isn't clickers a term in another zombie game also?
I don't know. I really don't know. It sounds
There's
like something.
Stickers or something.
It sounds like something out of Resident Evil. I'm not sure.
It actually sounds more similar to a Left 4 Dead. I don't think they were called clickers, but I think I get where you're coming from. It sounds very similar.
I think I remember. I think in Resident Evil there's an enemy called a licker.
Yep.
And I think they got like big tongues or something.
Yep. Nailed it. Yep. That's
okay. Well, Naughty Dog, you get an F now because you just put a C on the front of that, and that's bullshit.
You know, and this is what I want to credit Naughty Dog with right now, ahead of time, from what I've seen, is they're taking this like you're explaining, this tired concept, and it looks like they are doing what Resident Evil should be doing right now. They have made the next great survival horror game, possibly the next great video game, period. I mean, we'll see when it happens, but it really, that's the sense I got. I was playing through, I was like, this is the feeling I got when I played Resident Evil 1. And that's a bold statement, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stand behind that. You really start it, just the atmosphere, the mood, the lighting, everything about it, just in a little 30-minute demo. It reminded me of when I was 16 years old playing Resident Evil 1.
Thank God. Because I remember trying to play like Resident Evil 5. And it was just like Commando with zombies. Like you could take Arnold Schwarzenegger and you could just replace Cuban people with zombies, and like now you've got this game. And like it just wasn't frightening at all to me. So hopefully this does that better, because at one point before mainstream society really got a hold of it, zombies were kind of scary. Even Michael Jackson did it. But after a while it sort of became old hat.
Yeah.
To me, anyways. Just to me.
Yeah, I totally get you guys with that. I think the one thing, and I mean, I think the whole world's kind of excited for, is there hasn't been much talk about the multiplayer for the game. And, I mean, I'm not a big zombie game fan. Like, I played Resident Evil 6, but what makes those games for me is the multiplayer. Like, is it going to be co-op, competitive, or could they do like the Resident Evil 6 path where they kind of made it is co-op, but at the same time it's competitive with like a website interaction, and it tracks your stats and stuff. So for me, I mean, the selling point for me is going to be how did they do the multiplayer? What's it going to be about? Stuff like that, more or less.
Yeah, let me just tell you right now, you're going to be eating crow when you play this single player. Well, you know what? I can't guarantee that. But I mean, just the way this thing feels, you're going to love the single player. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, you're looking towards the multiplayer. Everybody wants to know what it's about. I put out an article a few weeks ago anticipating some kind of co-op mode or a co-op focus. I don't know that that's going to happen. We'll see. I mean, nobody knows what multiplayer is going to be like right now. I see potential in the single player, the style of the single player, where if they could do a multiplayer that feels like their campaign, then they might be onto something here, and I think that might be what they're going for. But we'll see. They said within the next few days, I assume Monday or Tuesday probably, they're going to let some cats out of the bags, and we're going to know a little bit more about it. So
hopefully the multiplayer is good, because, as I said earlier, if multiplayer is great in a game, it can really elevate it. It might not be able to like single-handedly save a game for me, but I will give it definitely more of a shot. Resistance 2, I like the multiplayer in that. Judge me or whatever, but I actually kind of liked it. And I didn't really care that much for Resistance as a whole, or as the for the plot. I could have essentially done without, especially Resistance 2's single-player mode. I didn't think was anything great. But I actually picked up Resistance 2 and played it for a little while just for the single player. So if you're playing a game with your friends and what you're doing is fun enough, sometimes you can forget if the overall plot isn't as interesting. So hopefully this one has a pretty good multiplayer that maybe all three of us can get on there.
Well, I can't end this conversation before mentioning that some guy, the art director for Naughty Dog for this game came out last week and he let loose a tweet saying this is the greatest multiplayer ever conceived. So those are some big words, and we'll see. And I think the whole world's excited to see what they have to offer here.
To quote Game Informer, well, maybe it wasn't Game Informer, but it was another game magazine. Before Daikatana came out, they said, John Romero's about to make you his bitch. That was actually an ad for Daikatana. John Romero's going to make you his bitch. So I've learned not to listen to ads that well. Although technically he did make me his bitch. I mean, if you paid for Daikatana, you really got bitch slapped pretty hard.
And you remembered the quote, so somebody's got your ear.
That's true.
Oh yeah, somebody definitely made you their bitch there, if you remember all that.
Shit, John Romero made me his bitch, and you guys just made me admit that on a podcast. So thanks a lot. Now I'm John Romero's bitch forever. Thank you
I can edit that out, but I'm not gonna.
No, I wouldn't want you to. The world needs to know
Oh,
this.
you want the world to know you're a bitch. There you go.
I'm gonna be a martyr. I don't want him to make them, bitches. So.
A martyr. That implies you have some kind of greatness that your reputation is dying for. But
I'm a local D-list celebrity. I'm a local D-list celebrity, so I'm gonna stand behind that and say that I do have some reputation.
Awesome. All right. Before we go to break, I did want to talk a little bit deeper with Carl about our. Well, no, I think we'll leave that for later. Yeah, this Last of Us demo, like I said, blah blah blah. It really looks like this game's going to be huge. And I did want to compare it real quick to when me and Carl did try out the Fuse demo when it dropped. And we had a lot of fun with that. I mean, it pretty much sold us both on the game. We were like, all right, I'd like to give this game a shot. I see potential here. But what separates this demo out is playing it. You just felt like you were part of something great already. Not this looks like it has potential. It's like this looks like it's gonna be something. Like affirmatively, no doubt in my mind kind of thing. So I'm excited about it. But I think we've exercised our tonsils. Oh, that didn't come out right.
Wow, who's making who's bitch now?
I think we're gonna go ahead and take a break now, especially after that.
Wait, one more second, just before we go on break. Something that was launched by I kind of been talking to a group on Facebook. They're called Elite Girl Gamers, but they launched something out. They received an email today from Sony. The Last of Us demo is only going to be available for the next 3 days, so you have to get on that. It's an exclusive, it's limited time, so if you want to try it and you don't trust Matt's opinion, and then I'm sure we'll have some type of article up in the next couple days between me and him and Jeff. One of us will have that up for you guys. But if you want to try it firsthand, you only have a couple days to get it, so hop on that before it expires.
And that kind of just reminded me, I will say one more thing about this Last of Us demo. It is pure brilliant the way they set this thing up. All right, you got your God of War Ascension, and if you're at the main menu, you hit square. If you're at the main menu of God of War Ascension, you hit square, and it transfers you over to this Last of Us demo countdown. Now, of course, the countdown's over, so once you get to that countdown screen, you press start. It takes you directly to the PSN store. All you got to do is click X one time. You download the thing. And now get this. This thing, I don't know why. I don't know whether to be impressed or scared or what. But once the demo was completed, you got a short trailer that I had never seen before. And then followed by, it takes you directly to the pre-order on PSN screen, which I thought was fucking brilliant.
Hey. Everybody else got a last word in before this break. Can I get one?
Yeah, feel free.
It's more of a question. Is Fuse spelled with an F or a PH?
Welcome back to TRG Radio. That was a song that Ashley actually requested. We were just talking about her off the air. She requested a song for this week. You too can request a song. Just go ahead and email me, trgmatt@therealgamers.net, or trgcarl or trgjeph@therealgamers.net. Hit us up on Twitter, anywhere. We'll have much easier access to this kind of thing on the site coming up here. But yeah, you guys go ahead and hit us up if you have any requests for our little intermission song. That'll be it. We'll use the suggestions that are given to us. Hopefully we have a lot and we have to choose one, and then other people can feel bad that they didn't get chosen. But
yeah.
That's a dream of mine.
Unless Hollywood Undead. Hollywood Undead won't play it.
No, just to clarify, that's TRG Jeph. In the Jeph is a PH at the end.
Right.
It's kind of complicated for American folks, I guess. I don't know why.
If you have a phone, you understand it. A phone. Or if you've ever visited a pharmacy, you should understand it.
If you listen to the podcast at all,
if you partake in pharmaceuticals, you might know.
Might even screw it up sometimes with words they're supposed to start. anyways, if you've listened to the podcast the last couple of weeks, I keep saying Jeff with a PH, and hopefully it'll sink in at some point. Follow us. Got it? All right. Getting into the actual meat and potatoes. We're going to talk a little bit about DRM. For those of you who don't know, DRM is the control of how games are distributed digitally, but it has grown to mean how games themselves are distributed. As in, if you buy a game, a hard copy or digital, you are buying the right to play the game on your console, but not elsewhere, much like PC gaming. DRM stands for Digital Rights Management. I don't know if I'm being redundant by saying that, but just to clarify. And the reason I wanted to get into this a little bit is because it's been a big deal, and everybody's talking about it. DRM is a thing that Microsoft has not denied that will be in the machine. As a matter of fact, there were some early confirmations that it would exist in some form or another. And right now it sounds like at least daily their servers are going to have to check to make sure, I don't know, I guess you were legit. They're going to check your online, make sure that your copies are straight. I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but they are going to check every 24 hours, supposedly. Who knows if that's how it'll stay. And one thing I wanted to touch on real quick is right now Sony they're playing around with the DRM. Like I said earlier, there was some joke Twitter posts by some Sony executives, and like Carl said, some confusion over, I can't even remember what the name's called anymore. But yeah, but Sony has not outright denied that they're going to have some form of DRM either. And you would think that if they weren't going to, they would just stick it to Microsoft right now. All right, PS4 is not going to have DRM, so screw you guys. They have not said that. So I think DRM is in our future for this gen. And I wanted to get some of your guys' thoughts on what this means for gamers, I guess.
Well, for me, I'm kind of bipartial, I guess. With it, it's like, yeah, I totally understand where they're coming from, DRM. And it's nothing new. Like, PC gaming, they've dealt with DRM for Lord knows how long. And it's nothing new. And for console gaming and GameStop, and there's a couple like side stores and stuff that they solely sell used games. So it's kind of like a big deal for them. But then when you look from an industry standpoint, and everybody knows that the economy is bad in the United States and it's slowly falling over in the UK and things like that, that everybody's trying to ensure that they're going to get their income. So I totally understand that. But then I'm all for used games, and I always refer back to the car market. You buy a car, it's your car, and you have the rights to it. You have the little pink slip, and if so-and-so wants to buy your car, hey, I want $6,000 for this car that I bought a few years ago. Here. And they give you $6,000, you got it. What's the difference between that and a used game? There's absolutely nothing. You buy a game, it's yours. You have the right to sell it if you want to.
That brings up a good point. I don't mean to cut you off, Carl, but I had never actually thought of it from that angle. If you're done with the game and you're ready to resell it, maybe you should be able to put the price on it. I mean, okay, you got to pay for these licenses for the developer or the publisher or whoever owns these rights to the game. So somebody's got to pay for these. But how come it can't go through you? You know what I mean? Why can't you determine the price and then maybe a portion of that goes to the company or something? I don't know. That seems awfully complicated, but it would make the most sense. It seems to me that would be the fairest way for everybody.
Oh yeah, and I mean, people encounter like from a day-to-day basis. Like me, I'm a huge Craigslist fan. I love open market. If you want a job done, you can do that. But if you look on Craigslist, they actually have for most areas in the world of video game sections, and people do exactly what you just said. They set their price. They say, "Hey, I want this much for that," whether it's an accessory or a game. And then you just say, "Hey, I want to buy that." And then you meet up, you buy the game from them. And yeah, it can be sketchy because it's not a secure source, but at the same time, it's slowly evolving the whole gaming industry around like you give more power to the gamer. I bought this game, I beat this game, I don't really see myself playing it anymore, so I'm gonna give it out and see who wants it. So for me, it's like I'm still kind of shocked that there's not a site dedicated, and there might be. I just haven't looked into it for used games where you can put up ads like, "Hey, I want to sell Final Fantasy 13. I beat the game. I platinumed it. I did everything I can do in this game, and I
Now,
want to give it to somebody else or
why,
any other game."
why are you giving a listener right now the gold mine instead of doing it yourself? Because you're right. That would probably be a pretty popular thing.
Well,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe you'll see a little side site, you know, like maybe like a usedgames.therealgamers.net here coming shortly. Who knows? It might happen. The
Maybe.
possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Actually, I worked at a video game store for 2 to 3 years, and um, I mean, people give GameStop a lot of crap because the way they gouge and the way they treat gamers, and there's not like a lot of alternatives. But without used games, I could probably say that like half of the people that came in there to buy stuff wouldn't have done it. Wouldn't have done it. I mean, the ability to say that like you can buy the same product for 10, 15, however many dollars less compared to the new one is like a huge ordeal. And when you start to think about it, like it's not like I bought the Avengers and like I can't watch it at my friend's house or I can't let my friend buy it. You know what I mean? You don't. It's like they're taking away your right to have that actual item. They're saying you're not buying the item, and that's like a really, I don't know. It's almost a difficult thing to conceive. And I think that if DRM becomes big on consoles, it might be the best thing that's happened to Steam since like Team Fortress 2.
Since Steam,
Because yeah, to Steam because PC gamers have already accepted stuff like that.
right?
That's a thing that they've been dealing with since it first came out, and they've had codes, to put in for your game that you can't play it on other computers. I think that, in all honesty, it would really hurt the console market. And, they want to argue that, well, they should buy the game new. They have to buy the game new if they want the experience. But I know there are a lot of people that, like, $60 is a lot to ask for however many hours you're going to play a game, unless it's an amazing game. At that point, developers are going to have to make such great games, which might actually be better for the market, but that it's going to be worth $60. If it's not worth $60, someone's not going to pay $60 for it, and I feel like that's the bottom line. And I honestly see this as like a good thing for PC gamers and PC gaming and Steam in general, especially because Steam is the biggest corporation or whatever having to deal with games, so. That's the way I feel about it. I think it would just help the PC gaming market and really hurt console games.
And
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. And then like you got to think about all these other markets. Yeah, you have people buying used games, but a lot of games now they come out with DLC and all that stuff. So yeah, I paid $60 for a game. I sold it back. I got $30 store credit or maybe $20 cash, whatever. I'm gonna buy another game, and it might be a little bit older. It is used with that credit, but then I'm gonna go around and pay $10 for this DLC that came out, so I can either have more maps, new features, new campaign, whatever it is. It's not like they're taking a loss. And at the same time, it makes you wonder, like, oh, and Microsoft did mention that they were going to do something with GameStop, because they are big on used games and stuff, and they're talking about the DRM, and they're going to work something out with them. But along the lines of buying used games, it seems big, like you said, like you worked at a game store. People want used games because, people are done with it. They want to pay a little bit less. The economy's bad. People don't have the greatest jobs. I mean, not everybody, at least. And then it opens up like a whole new avenue. Like, yeah, they got the game. They got to get some DLC. Like, if they want new map packs to be able to compete on online. Like, Call of Duty is a huge one. That I hate Call of Duty. I'm not gonna lie. It's a mainstream game or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if you want to play matchmaking on Call of Duty, you have to have that DLC for that map pack. So they're gonna get a cut of that, even if they didn't get the direct cut from the used games. They're gonna get the DLC content at least, so they're making another $10, $20. Who knows how much money that they're investing? Maybe they get that season pass that costs like $30.
Yeah, I think kind of goes along with that is, you know, I'm hearing, and I've heard from you guys, and I've heard a lot about from the player's perspective, from all over the internet, and this is from the player's perspective. Now, I should probably be more educated before I say this, but I am under the impression that a lot of games, a lot of developers and publishers are finding it tough to make their money back on some games. And I think this DRM thing is kind of a nod to them. Like, they might need it so that it's a little bit more profitable for them. Now, of course, I don't know. I'm anti-capitalist, and I think maybe some of these guys are just being greedy and trying to cash in more, but I'm not sure. This might have something to do with them. It might have to do with them needing to get a piece of those used games to keep their business profitable, to allow them to make bigger investments in the next title. In the end, that could help gamers too. Like I said, I should be more educated. I'm not 100% sure that is true, but that's kind of what it strikes me as. And some sort of DRM is necessary to make something like that happen.
Yeah.
And you're totally right with that. And I mean, I'm happy with the way this generation did it. Like, oh, you got a game that's multiplayer. Hey, you got to throw like $5 to $10 down to play multiplayer online. That works for me. So you got the used game dealer, whoever it is, whether it's some like, very small company that you're buying a used game from, or GameStop, or even somewhere online. And then the developer's getting that $10 cut to be like, hey, you can play online now. So it's like a win-win for everybody. I don't understand why they're shifting to the DRM. And for me, it's kind of like a big deal, because I'd say probably about 75% of the games that I own, I bought used. And I mean, that's huge for me, because I mean, not everybody has like the greatest job, or even if they have the greatest job, they're so adjusted to living a lifestyle that they have to work for the money to just live the way that they're living. So $60, like you say, there's 2 really good games coming out that month, and they're paying $120 for 2 games. That can be huge. That can be the difference between, oh, I can pay my internet this month, or I can have my cell phone bill, because everybody has all kinds of bills going on. And then, I mean, so now I'm going to pay, like, instead of $120, I'm paying $80 for 2 games a month later. No big deal. It's not a huge deal. And people buy games that, hey, I'm going to like, but they sold it because they didn't like it. So, I mean, it's a win-win for everybody. So I don't understand that shift for, like, hey, you want to own it, you have to pay this amount, and then it's for you only, and you can't sell it back, and you have to have this installation code, because I imagine that's the way it's going to be. I played PC games back in the day, Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, World of Warcraft. You have these activation codes, and that's all that disc is used for. Like, you install the game, you don't even need the disc afterwards. You put in your code, those guys made $60. But what they're not looking for is, hey, you just bought a game for $60, you install it, that's cool, and then this guy can buy a game for $40, pay $10 to play online, so I just made $60 and then another $10. So the long-term profit is actually $70 opposed to $60. And I have a hard time believing that they're not looking at that, and they're just thinking, hey, I want to get $60 every time.
Yeah. Actually, what I think it stems from is, like I said, I worked at a video game store, but I wasn't like a big up in the company. I was, an on the floor guy out there selling the games. People come up to me, what's great? What's going to entertain me? What's going to work? That's what they want to know. And when you're like a higher up in the company, you don't deal with the people that come into the store and are just like, what's going to, make my night better? They look at numbers. And they're, going to look at numbers. Look at how much money we lost from used games. What if all these games were new? But what they don't look at is what a terrible thing this is for like new IPs. Like, how many people are going to pay $60 for a game that they don't know that much about? they've never played the one before this game. That's a big investment, $60, like you said. You know what I mean? $60 can be your gas for the week or the next 2 weeks, especially in the kind of economy that we have going on. Who wants to do that? I bought Dark Souls for $15. I wouldn't have dropped $60 on that because I have no way of guaranteeing that it's going to be a great game. It's not like I played Dark Souls 1 and this is Dark Souls 2 and I know that in my mind it's going to be amazing. It's really going to hurt, specific things like that. Call of Duty's not going to get hit because, you got the same people buying Call of Duty every year or the same people buying Madden every year. But when you come up with a new, fresh idea for a game and it's different, that's kind of scary. What if I don't enjoy this game and I spent $60 on it? No, I can't trade it back. What if I spent, 2 hours playing something I spent $60 for? $30 an hour to not be entertained? That's not worth it for a lot of people.
Well, I don't think the DRM's going to go that far to where you will not be able to sell your games to a GameStop or something like that. I don't know what kind of impact it's going to have, but I doubt it'll freeze them out. That to me, that would just be foolish for Microsoft or Sony to do, but there will be some kind of restrictions in there, which we don't know what it is. But I agree. I mean, if you don't enjoy a game, you want to trade it in. You want to get some of your money back. And I just have a hard time seeing that they're going to say, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have, mandatory demos for all games so you can know you're going to enjoy it, then I think it's terrible for new IPs. How do you know you're going to like the game? And if you know what I mean, you can't get at least some of your investment back, that's probably too much to waste on video game entertainment for most people.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. And I was just thinking about it. If it wasn't for PlayStation Plus and being that they gave me Infamous 2, which, I didn't start with the first one, but if they didn't give me Infamous 2 for free, I would have never went out and bought a brand new Infamous game because, hey, I didn't know what this IP was. I didn't know what this shit was all about, but they gave it to me for free, so now this PlayStation 4 title that's coming up, I'm super excited about it because Infamous is a great game, but like I said, if I had to buy it for $60, I probably wouldn't get into it because it's something I didn't know about, and it's something that I had never tried. So, why am I going to throw down money like that for something like that?
I am 100% with you because, and you're talking about Infamous, and this is my story of getting introduced to Infamous. I read about it in Game Informer. I read about it online. Infamous 1, and it sounded so cool, but I was like, I don't know if this is up my alley. I'm not sure. And then everybody remembers a couple years ago the PSN fiasco where PSN was hacked. It crashed. It was down for quite a while. And so when it came back up, they offered free games. Hello?
Oh, we're still there.
Okay, thought I lost you. And we lost... Or we were given an option of choosing, I can't remember all the titles, but Little Big Planet or Infamous or whatever for free as our, hey, Sony, we're apologizing. We're sorry that this happened. And so I went and I was like, all right, let's check out Infamous. I downloaded that thing, and like you said, I wouldn't have paid $60 on it because I was afraid it would not be a worthy investment. Now, in hindsight, after playing through Infamous 1, I would have definitely paid $60 for it, the day it came out, if I had known. But yeah, it took that freeness to really get me into it. And like you were saying, PlayStation Plus has done a fantastic job of getting players to play games that they may not have played before. I just recently reviewed The Cave. That sounded like a cool game, but I didn't want to buy it. Well, it became free on PlayStation Plus. Played through it, loved it, reviewed it. That's just PlayStation Plus is really good. Sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent, but they've got something going with that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. And with me, the same thing. Closure. It seemed like a game that I would be into. I love puzzle games. I love platformers, but I wasn't willing to throw out. I think they were marketing it at $9.99, which $10, not that big a deal. But for me, for an indie game, not so much. So it came free for PlayStation Plus. I got it. It was a fantastic game, and I loved it. And then I did a review for it. People can read it. They can check it out. But I definitely recommend it. And then right now, I just picked up Knights Underground, and that game's fantastic as well. And it became free for PlayStation Plus. So that opens me up. I'm going to look for those developers and publishers that come up with these games because that game was great. So I'm sure that they're going to produce many more great IPs and many different games So next time, like, oh, it might not be free on PlayStation Plus now, but it's, oh, here's $10 for a brand new IP that we came out with, and I know that you gain trust through playing this game, so I'm pretty sure that you're gonna go buy this game. So for me, it seems like that free to play market that everybody's been like kind of curious about, like through either, oh, are they gonna make money through DLC, advertisement, and all that stuff. I think it's a good way to introduce a new IP is having a free to play, maybe a very basic version of it. Like Uncharted 3 did it recently with PlayStation Plus. You can get the free Uncharted 3 online multiplayer.
And that
It's
is
huge.
very, very basic, by the way.
Oh, I know. I
But
saw
does
it. You
get
can't get perks and stuff, but I mean, it's enough to say like, oh, you like this game, you like how it plays, you can compete with other people, but they have a few things better than you because they paid for it. Yeah, at the same time, you feel isolated as a gamer, like, oh, I don't have the same shit that this guy has because he bought the whole disc. But I mean, it's no big deal. You got your free introduction to the title, to the IP, and now you want more. And that, to me, that's a selling point, which totally, like, it's the complete opposite of the idea of DRM, where they want you to pay for the game for you to own it, and it's just for you. Where if you give me free to play, I'm gonna try it, I want more, and then I will pay for it. You just gotta let me try it first, because I'm not willing to throw out $60. That's a huge investment in this time.
Yeah,
DRM, I think, is bad for like indie developers too, because if you're gonna invest money in a game that you can't, necessarily all get back, you do want that guaranteed. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of smaller games or games that people don't know if they're going to be worth the money, they're just going to skip on necessarily. And so I think it hurts like smaller studios getting bigger as well. That's one of the things that's cool about, something like the PlayStation Plus, where you can try the game out, decide that you like it. And I mean, having support from a consumer behind the product that you make is a bigger deal than people, make it out to be. Like, people will go see a movie just because so and so directed it, or just because Johnny Depp is in it. So a lot of times, just getting the recognition and just getting your name out there can be important. I think the DRM can hurt that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest with you. When I think about the possibilities, like what are they possibly going to do with DRM? How could it help gamers? How could it hurt gamers? How could it help companies? How could it hurt companies? That's just it. All the possibilities boggle my mind, and I think really what it's going to come down to is how Sony and Microsoft approach this issue. I think it's a really, really important issue. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't think anybody knows how they're going to do it, but the higher ups, and hell, the way Microsoft talks, they're not even quite sure what they're going to do. So I am curious to see how are they going to handle this DRM. I know it's coming. If it's done in a way that feels fair, it doesn't feel like they're trying to take advantage of consumers, then I'm all for it. That's my thing. And it's really going to depend how they structure this whole thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Matt. But like for me, and I have this good ability to see it from both sides. I understand from a market perspective too. Like, hey, I'm trying to get profit and all this stuff, and the gaming in a whole is evolving. If gamers are gonna game, it doesn't matter what console it is on, what title it is, what IP, whatever you want to call it. They're gonna play games, and I mean, if I'm making you pay $60 to play a game and it's yours, you can't sell it back and stuff like that, people are going to pay for it. It might not be as many people that are doing it now, but they're going to do it. And then on top of that, I mean, PC gamers have been faced with this since like the late 90s. They implemented the installation codes. So it's not a new idea. And I mean, you'll meet a lot of PC gamers that are religious about it. Like, I won't play any other game if it's not on my PC because PC gaming is pretty expensive to get into. Every few years, like the hardware evolves. They have to get more RAM, a new video card, or whatever it may be. So I mean, there's a huge market for PC gaming, but the console gamers can't get too pissed off along the lines of, hey, I have to have a code to install this game, because it's been going on since the 90s. It's not a huge deal. It's not a big difference. It's just a different market that they're implementing it in. So, I mean, there's been gamers that have been facing it for, almost 20 years now that they've been dealing with it. So it's not a huge change. I mean, for me, I've been a console gamer since probably about 2003 when I picked up, I forget which console I got actually, but I had a PlayStation 2, an Xbox at a time, a GameCube, and all stuff like that. but it's nothing new. Like, people are getting way bent out of shape, and you got to look at it at a business perspective. Yeah, they're trying to make a profit, but who isn't? You don't work if you're not making money. And the same goes for, I'm not going to produce a game if I'm just giving it out for free. But at the same time, if you look at it from a gamer's perspective, which that's where I'm at right now, yeah, I want to be able to throw $60 down, play a game, be done with the game if I'm not into the multiplayer, don't have a lot of friends into it, or it doesn't have longevity of a title. I want to get, like, $20 to $30 back for that title, at least store credit, to pick up a new game. So I totally get where people are getting all pissed off, they're protesting, they're starting all this crazy stuff. But in the end, it is a business deal. They're doing it for business, and that's something that I think a lot of people aren't viewing games as it is a market. It is a business. People's lives, income, the way that they run their family, the stuff that they get, it's all based off of how that game sells. So I totally understand where they're coming from either way.
Right.
Yeah. One thing that, like I said, I think that it'll be actually good for PC gaming is because you said that people have been dealing with it for like 20 years, but the people who've been dealing with it for 20 years are PC gamers. Like, that's kind of one of the things that comes with the consoles. I buy a game. I can go out and buy a used game and pop it in. It's not like a giant machine that can do a bunch of things that I want it to do. I just want to play games. And so I can go out and get cheaper games for it. I don't have to worry about all this other stuff. I just put it in and it plays. And so I hate to say it, but I think what it's going to boil down to is just the way that, if they both go with it, the way they market the DRM. It's almost like politics. It just puts the better spin on it to make it sound better for people, is the one that's, probably going to make out in the end. And I mean, that's kind of scary, but hey, that's America.
You're right. I see what you're saying too. How, if they implement this thing in a way to where it puts us on par with PC gamers, that's that much more of an investment you're gonna have in your console and your console game library and stuff. And I could see how it could help PC gaming a lot too. I mean, if it's gonna be no different, you're right. There's one big draw for me in console gaming is that freedom to be able to maybe trade games with my friends. This is something I don't do anymore, but I used to, trade a game with a friend and no problem, just play it. He plays this, I play that, or I just borrow a game, or you have the luxury of going to buy a cheaper version of the game at GameStop or something. If that goes away, I mean, that's a level playing field with PC gaming. I can see how people they might even switch to PC gaming for that reason alone.
Yeah, I mean, a game is a game, and now you have to view it as like an investment. It used to be just an object, and you bought and you got to enjoy it, and when you were done with it, you got to get rid of it. But when you get rid of that aspect, it's almost like it's not a game anymore. And the word game is just almost so carefree in its nature. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
That's the whole point of a console, and more people who play C games now are going to jump to consoles because it's not any different for them.
Well, that's true. That's the other side of the coin. Good point.
And more people who play consoles who don't want to do stuff like that are probably going to find other things to occupy their time. So I guess maybe it depends on figures. I don't know. We think this many PC gamers will just switch over to consoles now when a console is the same thing as a PC now. But to me, I don't necessarily view it as like a positive thing, because that's one of the things that I liked about a game, is that a game was a game. It was just something that I could use, anybody else could use. No strings attached. There weren't other things with it. There wasn't a code. There wasn't all this other stuff I had to do. And that just, to me, helped with the aspect of it. I buy it, I enjoy it, I get rid of it when I, don't want it anymore. I'm not stuck with it forever. So I don't know. I think it might make it less of a product and more of an investment, and I don't necessarily view that as a good thing. But from the PC side, I can see it helping PC gaming. So who knows? Maybe the Steam box has, more to it than I had assumed originally.
That's a topic for another day, and I'm sorry I'm going to kind of force a little transition here, but yeah, I think the summary of all that we're talking about here with DRM is we just don't know. It's a lot of speculation, and hopefully coming in the next few weeks, we're going to get a better idea of what's on the horizon and actually be able to discuss how it's actually going to impact everybody. So we will see. But I'm going to go ahead and move on. I did want to touch on a comment, some news that I read today. Microsoft executive Craig Davidson. He is the director of global marketing at Microsoft. He recently stated that Xbox One is going to surprise the world at E3. And to add on to that, at least as far as the translation goes, I want to clarify. I looked more into this, and it appears he told this to a Spanish IGN, IGN Spain, and the link to this. The way they sourced it was through a Google Translate version of what he said. So I don't know if this was actually said, but I guess the words he used were that Microsoft was going to kill, or Xbox One was going to kill PS4 at E3. So I don't know what this means. I assume it has something to do with their exclusive titles. That's all I can really think of. I guess Microsoft also went on record today saying they're not going to be talking about any of the other entertainment features, just games at E3. So apparently they've got some surprises. They're going to surprise the world after all. And I mean, what kind of things could this guy be talking about? I mean, I'll throw it to you guys. I mean, what do you think he could be referring to?
I mean, for me, as a gamer, I'm going to be surprised when they do any type of release where they don't use the word TV at all. And we went over this last time that it was TV, Call of Duty. That's pretty much all I heard the whole time. Or, oh, I got a bunch of shit popping up on my screen. So I'm going to just be shocked if they start talking about games, because as a gamer, they didn't talk anything to me. So yeah, I'm going to be shocked if they just focus on the gaming aspect of the system. Now, for me as a gamer looking forward to the next gen, I would be shocked, and I'm hoping that they do sell me along the lines of, hey, this is what our online gaming service is going to offer you this time around, because I really didn't get a feel that they were saying, hey, we're pretty sure that Xbox Live or whatever the hell they're going to call it on the next gen, I'm going to be paying for it. We all know this already because you've been paying for Xbox Live since the original Xbox came out and they came out with it. So for me, it's like, well, this is what you're going to be able to do. This is all the cool shit that you're going to invest in and you're going to be able to do. Now, for killing the PS4, I think that's a bold statement, because the PS4, Sony has done such a great job of just releasing just enough to keep people interested, but not enough to sell you, because I really feel like E3 on that press release, they're really going to blow your mind. At least I hope they do. And I mean, I might be slightly biased because I'm a Sony fanboy. I mean, I've had every PlayStation since they launched them, but I'm really thinking that's a bold statement. So if they don't have anything that's going to blow my mind, I'm going to be extremely disappointed by anybody saying anything like that.
Yeah. From their initial reveal of the Xbox One and its focus on just media in general, it really makes you question how much they can target games at the next at E3. Because
all right, I'll stop you real quick. I would like to interrupt. Several Microsoft executives in the last week or so have gone on record to say that E3 is going to be all about games. They really want to deliver that message. So I tend to believe them when more than one person is saying it from Microsoft. So it looks like they are going to make that transition to being all about games. And I don't know what they could do to really shock me at this point, though.
Yeah, because from what the games they did show at their initial reveal, none of them, I mean, Quantum Break was new, but all we saw was, cinematic footage. We didn't see any real gameplay. We got, more sports and another Call of Duty. It's the same one, but with a dog or whatever. And, I mean, we have things that can do all the media you want and play games, and they're called computers already. So that's the whole point on pinpointing your focus when you come up, with a console or whatever. What is it going to do? What's its strengths going to be? And I don't know. It's not stronger than the PS4 from the specs that I read anyways, so I don't know how it can beat it in every respect. I guess technically it's possible for it to be a better media machine and have all the best games. But, the PS3 didn't do what it needed to do, but Sony's an experienced company. And they're still floating around, so I'm hoping the best for Microsoft. I'm hoping that they say, no more fantasy football, no more, soap operas based around Master Chief, and they just talk about, actual games or whatever. But, first impressions are important. And your first impression was, I'm going to watch soap operas with Master Chief, or I'm going to play the same Call of Duty with a dog. So I'm hoping for the best, in all honesty, because competition is the best. You know, you don't want to not have competition, especially in an industry like this. But we'll see what happens, because right now the focus on the system is keeping track of your Final Fantasies, your fantasy football scores, and watching television at the same time as you do a million other things. So we'll see.
And to your point, the way they presented the Xbox One, and I think every gamer agrees, is that just that the focus, it feels like the focus is off the gamers. So for them to really make an impact at E3, they don't only have to show games, all right? I mean, they do have to do that, but it's going to take more than that to shift the focus to the games, because right now it's not there. It's just not there. You've showed us a Call of Duty we've seen before. You showed us EA Sports games that we knew were coming anyways. You showed us one exclusive that we know nothing about. All right, now it's the ball's in their court. They've got to show us games, but not only that, especially with that bold statement this guy made, it's going to have to go above and beyond expectations. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see if they have any sort of follow through. Right now, they're sounding a lot like Sony did this gen. Sorry. They're talking a big game, but can they back it up? And it took Sony years to be able to back up most of what they said, and some of it they still haven't. We still haven't seen a lot of the features that they promised, 8 years ago or whatever it was.
Cross game chat.
Right.
One thing is, I was working at a game store when it happened, but it was a big fucking deal, a huge fucking deal, an amazing deal when they said Final Fantasy 13 is going to come out on Xbox. Not that like Final Fantasy's anti-Xbox, but Final Fantasy and PlayStation, they were just, they had it going on. They were tight ever since PlayStation 1. That's a huge deal. And it's also, a big point to make that IPs, especially big profitable ones, unless it's owned, unless it's God of War and it's owned by PlayStation, or unless it's Mario and it's owned by Nintendo, from, the developer's point of view, let's make it multi-platform. And that actually hurts, I think, Microsoft, because they've already shifted their focus to non-games. And they're going to have to make it, shift the focus back to games. And the way to do that is through exclusive titles. That's the only real way to do that. And they said they got, 15? Was it 15?
15. 8 new ones.
7 of those. Yeah, how many of them are going to be small games? Yeah, how many of them are going to be, game changers? How many of them are going to be Halos? How many of them are going to be Gears of Wars is the big question. Because how many, 18, 15, the games that are coming out, for Xbox, there's going to be twice as many that come out for both systems. Right. So you really got to make sure that the quality is there if your system's focus isn't on games. That's the way I feel anyways.
And I think what Microsoft is trying to say lately is that their focus is on games. It's clearly not like Sony's focus is with the PS4. But they said this machine can do pretty much everything the PS4 can do, and I guess then some. That remains to be seen. But the idea is they can make games that are on par with the PS4's quality. And it can be on par. So they have that capability, you know what I mean? And it just remains to be seen if they can shift their focus back that direction.
Oh yeah, and I totally agree with you, but to say, hey, we're gonna wipe the more or less, I'm gonna twist the words a little bit, but we're gonna wipe the floor with PlayStation 4. All right, so you revealed the Xbox One, Sony revealed the PlayStation 4. Look at the raw stats right now. PlayStation 4 is obviously the more powerful machine. It's more developer friendly, and on top of that, they have the cloud-based servers. They have all kinds of servers online. It's going to allow me to play games on my tablet, whether I'm actually physically playing the game on my tablet or cell phone. I'm going to have an out-of-game map that's not covering up my screen. So, that's kind of cool. It's a new concept. But for them to say, hey, we're going to beat PlayStation 4 out, right now, they're really going to have to kickstart, because Sony's already got the better game for gamers, at least if you're looking at it from a gaming perspective. Sony sold me when they released the PlayStation 4 with all their new features, because I didn't hear anything about Facebook or all that shit other than selling screenshots or videos for my game that I'm playing. And you know what? Once again, that's involved with gaming. It had nothing to do with Skype or fantasy football or anything like that. So they're really going to have to go out of their way and say, hey, this is for gaming. Because right now, Sony has the clear edge, in my opinion at least, of being the better console for a gamer.
Easily. I mean, I think that's unanimous among everybody. Every gamer understands that.
Yeah. I think the multi-platform sort of perspective is a big deal too. Like, at the end of the day, if I could have bought God of War on an Xbox and that's all I wanted to play, I'm going to buy the cheaper system or the system that has more other features. So,
Right.
like, get the games that people need to play and then worry about the features. Because I have a laptop and a computer or a cell phone that can Skype and I can check my fantasy football scores from.
Right.
Give me something that I can't get anywhere else. You want like the whole living room experience? Well, I got a DVR already. I've got, a huge sound system. I've got all this other stuff. You really, really have to make it worth my while to drop those extra however many hundreds of dollars on a game console, especially one that isn't going to play the games that I want to play. Now, that being said, Gears of War, Halo, those are games that a lot of people do want to play. So I think it falls back to the exclusives. How many years did it take for Sonic to appear on a non-Sega system? Was it like the first Mario versus Sonic Olympics game or something like that?
That was recent, I think.
Yeah.
Crossover.
That was like the Wii or something. Like, that's a big deal. Sony got hurt after the PS2 when Spyro and Crash Bandicoot and all that stuff, weren't necessarily single platform. I'm pretty sure Crash Bandicoot went multi-platform anyways. Like, that's, if you can get it somewhere else, then you're going to think about what's the best place where I can get it. If you can't get it somewhere else and you want it, that's where you're going to go. End of story.
Oh, yeah, and I totally agree with you. And I mean, along the lines of Sega, and this is kind of big. I think it was last week Sega announced that they were going to work with Nintendo almost exclusively, but not quite, with the Wii U. Wow. And I mean, for me...
how times have changed. Wow.
Oh, no, but exactly. But for me, I mean, I'm kind of biased. I bought a Dreamcast, and I was so sad that was the last Sega console that came out, because I've been a fanboy since the original Master console came out.
Sega Channel.
You're right, and Sega Channel. They were always ahead of their time. And for me, I totally feel like that's the way the Wii U is going. So I'm a little biased. In my opinion on Sega and Nintendo's little relationship is the first party that went third party, and it's the first party that's about to go third party. So, I mean, I'm a little biased. But at the same time, I mean, if they can launch some IPs that were exclusive to Sega at the time for Nintendo, it could be a great, like, integration, because you had Beyond the Oasis, Shining Forces, Phantasy Stars. That's all Sega shit. So, I mean, they could really push that. But, I mean, you don't see anything like that other than, like, you got a little bit from Bungie for Sony, a little bit from Activision for Xbox, or Microsoft, rather. But at the same time, those games are coming out for the other consoles. At least Nintendo can say, like, hey, this Sonic's only coming out for Wii U. So, at the same time, and everybody's talking Microsoft, Sony, is the Wii U a next gen? Yes, I think it is, because the Wii U can do stuff that my PlayStation 3 can't, so it is a next gen. But, I mean, nobody's talking about Nintendo, and they're doing a huge market push in the next few months, and then they're talking a big game for E3 too. So, I mean, you can't underestimate them.
Yeah. When I think about Sega, I think about how, like, Vincent van Gogh or other great artists died poor. Like, they made amazing stuff, but they died poor. They didn't have business sense. Sega was so far ahead of its time. The Sega Genesis was like 16-bit and had internet access. It had Netflix for video games almost.
Oh yeah, it was the original GameFly. And
they're not making consoles anymore, because no matter how great what you got going on is, this is capitalism, and you got to have the business sense. That's why Microsoft is where they are right now. So, I mean, that's why Sony is where they are right now, too. I mean, you can have the best...
And I hate to say it, but it looks like that's why Nintendo's where they are right now, and they're...
Oh, yeah. You got to make the business decisions. I mean, when Sega decided that they were going to release the Sega Saturn early after that E3, and all those places like that they said they weren't going to carry that early, decided not to carry it, just got crushed. It couldn't stand against the PlayStation. And the Sega Saturn, there are developer consoles of that in the world that can go online. Again, the Sega Saturn, online, 32-bit. PlayStation 1 was not online. Nintendo 64 wasn't online. Just well ahead of their time, but because of the business decisions, yeah, you can be ahead of your time, but you can be 6 feet under at the same time. So you got to be careful. And I'm hoping that you always hope that the company that offers the better product wins, but that's not necessarily the way it goes. So Microsoft is really good at marketing, so we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, you're like totally right with that. And like after you were talking about like way ahead of its time, I'm just thinking even back for handhelds, the Sega Game Gear, although it was like hauling around a cinder block, it was like you had a TV screen, you had colors, you had backlighting, you didn't have to worry about what angle you were at with the light to play the games, and the games were good. But I mean, it was just like you said, way ahead of its time. And you said being online consoles, the Saturn was online, the Sega Genesis was online, and it took like 10, 15 years for the Xbox to go online, or the PlayStation 2. And the PlayStation 2 went online, I believe, for SOCOM. If I mean, you know, don't quote me, but I think, or Twisted Metal Black, one or the other.
Right.
But, I mean, that's like 10, 15 years ahead of its time. And I feel like Nintendo's doing that with, they have a fully immersible screen in the middle of their, you know, regular controller, the Wii U pad or whatever they want to call it. It's got a full touch screen. It's fully LED, or it might even be OLED. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't looked at the specs. I was contemplating purchasing one just to kind of get my hands on it. But I mean, it's way ahead of its time.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how this whole thing plays out. E3 is going to be an interesting place. It really is. I mean, this is one of the more intriguing E3s that I can recall. And yeah, I've been a follower of E3, being from Southern California. I mean, E3 is a big deal here, and I've been following it for, God, as long as I can remember. Since I first discovered it as a kid, I remember when E3 didn't even exist for a few years, and then they brought it back, all that. And I don't recall this much hype being around in E3. So we'll see how it all goes. We'll see how it all plays out.
So E3, some dark years, just like MMA that you also covered, huh?
What's that?
E3 had some dark years, just like MMA, just like UFC, which you also covered.
Yeah. I guess I'm the dark horse of coverage. I don't know. I don't know.
Hopefully you don't curse the website. Anyway, like for me, and I'll end the whole E3 thing if you guys don't have anything else to go. Is for any developer, any type of party that's doing anything for E3, just show me the games. I don't care about anything else. I care about the games. I don't care about Skype. I don't care about fantasy football. I don't care about sharing screenshots with my friends. It's about the games. I'm going to buy consoles based on the games that are coming out and how you're going to change my gaming experience. I don't care about feedback on controller triggers because, I mean, I can get that already if I go to GameStop and get a third-party controller. So you're really nothing special. Touchscreens, I've had a touchscreen phone for like the last 10 years. Nothing really special. I want the games. That's all I care about. And I'm sure a lot of gamers will agree with me when it comes to E3. We just want to see the games. I don't give a shit about anything else.
Yep. Technology can only carry you so far. It's all about the experience that you have with the technology.
Right.
At least that's the way I look at it.
All right, I think we'll close that segment with that. I was going to talk about some itty-bitty news from Square Enix, but I think I'll just save that and write an article about it tomorrow. You guys want to get into the top 10 list tonight, or you guys want to just get to close the show? We can go either way.
If Carl does it, I'll do it. He's got 10, though. I only have like 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah, I'll do the top 10. Like, I have no problem with it. I'm actually kind of proud of my list. But, all right, so this week I wrote it's titled TRG's Carl's Top 10 Favorite Villains of All Time. And yeah, there was some mainstream villains and stuff like that. But for me, for the most part, I mean, these were villains that changed my view on video games. And my 10th one was an obvious one. It was Bowser. And, I mean, Bowser was huge for me because, I mean, not only was he stealing the princess from Mario, like, for who knows how many entries, side entries, and all shit like that. Everybody knows who Bowser is. But one thing that I think a valuable lesson that gamers can learn from it is that you should never, ever hold a grudge against anyone. It didn't matter how many times Princess Peach got stolen or Bowser dicked over Mario. Mario always insisted on inviting Bowser to play all kinds of sports games, or just go drive go-karts, or hey, let's have a Mario party. Bowser was never exclusive. So I mean, or excluded rather, not exclusive. But it was huge to me, like to think, and it really elaborates on the keep your enemies closer. And then, I mean, you can go ahead and elaborate on it if you want, man.
Well, actually, one of my top 10 villains is Princess Peach. It's like you said, we have all these hints and these clues pointing to Bowser and Mario not really being that big of enemies. And I seem to recall a specific line from a Mario, sorry, Mario, but the princess is in another castle. How many spiky turtle dudes is she hanging out with? How many of them does she got to go through? It seems to me that the connecting factor in all the Mario games isn't Bowser, but rather it's Peach. I think she's kind of fooling around on Mario, maybe with these turtle dudes or whatever. And I've never really liked Princess Peach, in all honesty. So I have Princess Peach in my top 10 because I think that she's an untrustworthy sort of hoe character. And I don't like her.
That's an interesting take. That's an interesting take on the lore of the Mushroom Kingdom.
Bowser's coming like every other Thursday. How often does it take for you to realize, like, oh, this giant, 20-foot tall turtle dragon dude's gonna come and steal me? But come on, you can't get captured that many times unless you're trying. And how many castles does Mario have to go through? And there's all these little turtles, these other little Koopa dudes, like, check out my wand, girl, right? They all got little wands and stuff. And I don't trust Princess Peach. I'm not going to tell you what number she is, but she'd be higher than Bowser. I can tell you that right now. So that ties in with what I got going on.
Oh, I totally agree with you. And I mean, I love my girlfriend to pieces, but she was getting stole away by all these guys for the last 30 years, I'd be like, you know what? It's not worth it. I go through all these different worlds, dungeons, fucking who knows how many sewers I walked in. And you know what? I'm still not getting anything out of it. So you know what? You're on your own. You can deal with that spiky turtle guy. If you're into bestiality, it's all you. I totally get that.
Yeah. I've seen maybe 3 cute Mexican girls that I've seen that are worth taking a fireball for. The rest of them, I'm going to go home, even if it's through like a pipe or whatever. And you know what I mean? I'm going to find Princess Pear or whatever I got to do, to get through my day. So.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you there, man. Totally agree with you there.
Do you really?
Yeah, but I mean, think about it. I mean, seriously, the fireball reference is perfect because if you say you went through any Mario game and didn't get fucked up by a fireball, you're a fucking liar.
Exactly.
So, I mean, seriously, I can't think of how many fireballs I took as Mario to try to save a princess that, at the end of the day, I don't even get a kiss. It's just, oh, look, the curtain's closing on us, and who knows what happens. She might just be like, you know what, I'm going to go get kidnapped right now so you can have another game.
Right. How many chubby, mildly under-attractive plumbers end up, with princesses? She's taking advantage of Mario. That's what I feel. And Princess Peach is my top villain in the Mario series. I'm not going to say what number she is on my countdown. I don't want to ruin that for our listeners, but Princess Peach is up there.
Oh, yeah. And then I guess my next entry for villains would be Proto Man. I've been a huge fan of Mega Man. Since I could remember. I mean, even from the Mega Man cover art, the original where it was a fat guy with a gun. I didn't understand it because when I played it was a little 8. Not even 8. I don't even know. 8-bit maybe? Yeah, 8-bit. 8-bit blue kid looking motherfucker. But I don't understand why he was a fat guy. But Proto Man, man, he was cool because they had kind of like a love-hate relationship between the many different entries of the original Mega Man and the TV show. I mean, there was a couple times where they worked together because shit just got too crazy for them. But at the same time, I mean, I can't think of how many times I was frustrated beating them, whether it was beating them in the original Mega Man after you unlocked the second set of bosses, or even Mega Man Soccer, which was a very underrated title. But when you fight Proto Man's team, you get pissed off because that dude has some special moves you can't do shit against.
Right. He's a badass. He's like Ivan Drago, and you're Rocky. And you just got to win with what you know. But he's throwing all sorts of he killed Apollo Creed, which I don't really know of a parallel in Mega Man for Apollo Creed. But whatever. So That's the way I feel about it. And not only that, but they team up at points. That means he's a badass. Imagine if there was somebody that was so hardcore that Batman went to the Joker and was like, dude, I need your help to out crazy this motherfucker. Like, that's when you know stuff got real. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
Proto Man, he hits home for me too, even though I don't like Mega Man. I suck at them. I don't think I've ever beaten a level. I thought he was orange for a while. I didn't know that he was blue, which is apparently a pretty common, thing to know about him. So, but anyways, I respect you on the Proto Man call.
All right. And then I guess the next one, and it's something a lot of people haven't experienced it, and I'm kind of like, you really should, is and it doesn't really have a title, but I went off of Singing Poo Monster, which sounds crazy. But I was a huge N64 gamer, and I played a game called Conker's Bad Fur Day. And it's a boss fight that I'll never remember. You go into this world, and you pop into this room, and there's this singing pile of shit. And all he's doing is singing an opera about like how he's gonna kill you and all this evil shit he's doing. And it's just one of those things I'll never forget. I mean, not necessarily did it change my life as a gamer, no. But it was just one of those things that impacted me like permanently. Like, whoa, I just got fucked up by a singing pile of shit.
Right. Before I comment on the pile of shit, what do you got, Matt?
What do you mean?
For villains.
I don't have too many. I'm going to let this one roll. Like I said, I agree with a couple of Carl's. I'll throw Sephiroth into the mix. I won't go into detail about that.
Mama's boy.
And, well, you know what? Sephiroth spawned the emo revolution. So there's something to be said for that. They're definitely...
Right. And think about that. If he spawned the emo revolution, then we hate him in real life.
That too.
On top of the game.
He transcends history of video games. He's in modern day life.
He's a real life villain.
He broke every wall. He broke the MTV wall. He's a bigger douche than Ryan Seacrest. That's how you know Sephiroth is an ass. I want to talk about the singing pile of poo. That's awesome. I just say that.
Let me point out. From the side, I have noticed so far on your list, we've got 2 out of 3 plumbing-related villains. So I'm just throwing that out there. Food for thought. There's a theme going on. I don't know. Go ahead.
Multiple members of my family may or may not have been murdered by plumbers. I refuse to comment on that right now. So
we'll get with you later.
Conker's Bad Fur Day was awesome, and that was one of the first games that I loved the multiplayer for. And one of the things I think is funny is they remade that for the Xbox. Not a lot of people actually remember that. Do you guys recall that?
Yes, I do, because I'm a huge Conker's Bad Fur Day fan.
And the multiplayer and everything sucked compared to the 64 version.
Oh yeah, I mean you can't beat. Like I don't remember the title exactly, but it was a war scenario, so it was kind of like a third-person shooter, but you were in like a D-Day environment. Yep. And dude, I had so much fun with that.
It was like the beach in Normandy and all this other stuff. It's still to this day one of the top multiplayer experiences I've ever had, and it was on the Nintendo 64, which means it really has to stick out because that controller is sort of like a batarang, like it was digging into your hands. Like one huge analog stick that like had these horrible grooves on it that dug into your thumb, and you had carpal tunnel after 25 minutes of playing a game. But I still really liked Conker's Bad Fur Day, especially within the first 5 minutes when you're a squirrel and you wake up and you're hammered and you're swearing at like a scarecrow and you like beat his ass with a frying pan or something. That's how you know you got a great game on your hands. But Conker's Bad Fur Day is an underrated game in general for the 64.
I totally agree with you.
And for my villains, for one, I'm just going to mention by name, Psycho Manus. By mathematical probability, there are actually people who exist in the world who haven't played Metal Gear Solid and fought Psycho Manus. So I refuse to state why he's one of my favorite bosses or villains in video games.
Spoilers, eh?
No, I'm not going to do it. I am a better man than that. I'm the male Mother Teresa.
And you know, it is fair to say that it has been, I don't know, at least 15 years since that has happened, if I'm not mistaken. I think you can let that cat out of the bag.
I'm not going to do it. I'm going to move on.
All right.
I'm gonna go with my immediate judgment on this.
You know what? I see where you're coming from, because that is one of the most memorable experiences ever in a video game, right there.
It'll remind why you love PlayStation so much, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
and why exclusives are important. But
We just
besides that,
hey Konami, we just sold some copies of Metal Gear Solid. Can we get some royalties? No.
yeah, you
If
guys
only
owe
it were that easy.
Metal Gear Solid 7, Revengeance, or whatever. You guys owe me a shitload of money for that now. But on top of it, I won't say what number he is, but at least in my top 5, I love Dr. Robotnik. And I
Yeah.
didn't realize how much I loved him until I played Mario, because we were a Sega family growing up and we played a ton of Sega Genesis. And when I got to Mario, I mean, Mario's a great game and it's mechanically a good game. And besides Peach, that traitorous whore, everything about it is great. But one of the most awesome parts about Sonic the Hedgehog was making it to the end and fighting the boss and seeing what he was going to be. Because he was in like a new crazy machine, and you had to find a new way to defeat him every time. I mean, it always ended up you jumping on him because there was just a jump button, really. But he moved differently. He was in a different machine. Everything about every fight was essentially different. And when I played Mario, I believe it was 3. That's the one with the floating airships and the missile cannons and stuff on it.
Yep.
It has all those little Koopa turtle bosses with the wands. I mean, sometimes they would do different stuff, but it was the same thing over and over again. And I think Dr. Robotnik, discounting a lot of early RPGs, popularized the idea of a badass boss encounter. I feel comfortable saying that.
I agree with you.
Awesome, and the stuff that he would make, I mean, it was cool. The first level would be like he would be floating around, have a ball swing in. There would be like one of the levels you'd have to jump up and chase him through like a whole thing while he had like a spike on the bottom. It was just really cool. So I'm gonna put Dr. Robotnik at least in my top 5.
Totally agree with you with that. Like I'm surprised I didn't think of that.
He's really awesome, dude. I'm surprised more people don't recognize him as like a great villain, because I mean, he's not like, I'm going to murder everybody. I mean, he kind of is, but it's more about like the way that you viewed the game you were playing. When the boss encounter at the end of the stage is like a big deal and it gives you like this goal to go for, and then suddenly it becomes this epic event. I mean, it's probably impossible to calculate how much that has affected video games that we play nowadays, where the bosses are big deals.
To be fair, Dr. Robot, it takes a certain type of demented mind to enslave all the cute animals on a planet. So, credit to him for that. That's pretty fucked up.
I don't know, man. Sometimes squirrels really piss me off. So,
Devil's advocate, you really do love Dr. Robotnik.
Dr. might even be just like a symbolism for capitalism. He's like, I hate the rainforest, I hate the animals, and all I care about is technology. And we're on a video game podcast right now. That might not be the best thing to bring up, but hey, that's neither here nor there.
We won't go on the tangent, but I see where you're coming from.
I love Dr. Robotnik. I love the stuff that he did for video games as a whole, and I think he's underrated as a villain. So he's at least in my top 5.
Yeah, I think a reason that he wasn't taken so seriously is that the direct Japanese translation is he's Dr. Eggman.
Yes.
So I think the fact that he's Dr. Eggman is kind of a, it doesn't really bring out his level of notoriety.
Yeah, I mean, but like if you eat a raw egg, you're pretty screwed. You can get salmonella and stuff from that. So I still see the viciousness contained within the name of Dr. Eggman. So
yeah, I can see
I'm
that.
American, so Robotnik. That's how I view him forever. Robotnik.
Oh yeah, and I mean, if they stuck with that, he'd be I think he might have been taken a little more seriously.
And don't quote me on this, but I believe he was modeled after Teddy Roosevelt. Like the way he looks and stuff. I think I heard that somewhere. Or FDR, one of the two.
He definitely looks like Roosevelt. I'll give you that.
Yeah, really want to look that up. But those are the 3 that I'm giving away. The rest you're going to have to read my long rambling review for. So.
Yep. Well, I'm going to read number 7, and then I'll skip ahead after that so I don't bore everybody with the top 10. But number 7 for me was Star Wolf, and I really, really like Star Wolf. He was in the original Star Wolf, or Star Fox 2, if anybody actually picked up that copy, because it was for the SNES, and nobody actually played it because it was Japanese. Really good game. But he really stood out for me in Star Fox 64. I don't know if anybody fought on that Death Cube thing where it was like an open world. He had pretty much the same exact team as Star Fox did, except for they were kind of like complete opposites along the lines of their personalities. And just somebody that can go through generation after generation and just really piss people off. I mean, you got to make my list. And he was kind of cool, and like the whole time he was talking shit to Star Fox, and all of his little teammates were talking shit to the other guys. I mean, they were pretty badass.
Longevity can be important in a villain. I definitely feel that's a point to be made. Longevity can be important in a villain. Point in case, Master Shredder.
Yep.
Bad mofo. So.
New Ninja Turtles movie coming out soon. Hopefully Shredder's in it.
Isn't Michael Bay directing it?
Yeah.
Lots of explosions. Boom, boom, boom.
Exploding.
Ninja Turtles movies seem odd to me.
Yeah. I was just going to say exploding ninja stars. I don't know. Krang would make sense. That little brain, he can make some explosions, but yeah. I don't know. This might be a break from Michael Bay's norm. We're getting off track.
But then I'll get into the top 5. Actually, you know what? No, I'll go to 6 and then I'll skip, because I feel like number 6 is kind of one of those villains that, like, if you didn't have a Sega Genesis, you probably wouldn't appreciate as much. But it was a guy named Adler, and everybody adored Adler in Shining Force 2 when you first met him. He was a fucked up blind kid you met in the heat of battle, and you nursed him back to health, and he was cool. He was piling around with you. And then out of nowhere, he disappears, and then later on... Oh, by the way, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. But later on, you find out that he's actually one of the top generals for the guy that you've been trying to launch this campaign against the whole time, the Dark Lord Zeon. And, I mean, for me, I was a little younger, but, I mean, that shit pissed me off. I liked Adler. I thought he was cool. And then out of nowhere, he just pops his head out, and he's like, oh, how's Peter and the so-and-so doing? Like, 2 characters that you have. And you're like, oh, no, this motherfucker, not only did he betray me, but now he's asking how my party's doing? Oh, hell no. And you wanted to fuck him up.
That's crazy. I honestly have not played that game, and I didn't know about that. And if I were to put it, like, you know, in another circumstance, like I'm playing FF7, and suddenly Barrett's like, you know, fuck you guys, I'm actually a bad dude. Like, that'd be crazy. And that was on the Genesis, you said?
Oh, yeah, Shining Force 2. I mean, if you guys haven't played it, and I'm a little biased to the game, but, it, like, still to this day, Shining Force 2 is probably my favorite video game that has ever released. It was fantastic. But, yeah, that shit pissed me off more than anything. I think I was like a pissed-off 12-year-old. I was mad as hell.
To me, that's the video game equivalent of Luke, I am your father.
Oh, yeah,
like,
no, that's exactly what it was like. I not only did I feel betrayed as a gamer, but I was literally enraged. Like, all I wanted to do was fuck everything up in that battle, because this motherfucker... Oh, hell no. I helped you out. You're blind. You can't find your fucking way around. Now you're better, and you're going to beat the shit out of me. Oh, that's just not happening. Nope.
Carl don't play that.
Nope.
I definitely understand that.
Yeah, I wasn't playing that shit. And then, let's see. I'll go to the top 3 just to cut it short. So number 3 was actually Hayachi Mishima, which, if you're big into Tekken, I don't think Tekken would have had much of a storyline if it wasn't for Hayachi, but he did some pretty crazy shit if you follow the storyline at all. I mean, he killed his father, which was a huge deal. He said, hey, I'm taking over this military corporation, and I'm going to lock you in a basement and starve you to death. That's huge. Like, he killed his own father, and then he hates his son and grandson because he's on this constant power trip, like, oh, I have to have this devil cell. Why the hell did Jin have the devil cell before me? So they're constantly fighting. But actually, in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, there's a special tag move, which I find absolutely hilarious. It's with Hayachi and Kazuya, and Kazuya is the son of Hayachi. But it's a tag throw. And what happens is, it starts off, Hayachi grabs him and start fucking this guy up. And then Kazuya goes in, punches him a couple times, and then Hayachi thinks to himself, well, shit. And then he just fucking throws his son at him, like, and his son goes at him fucking completely defenseless, head first into the guy, because they don't give a shit about each other.
Genius.
Throw a motherfucker at another motherfucker. That's how you fight.
Yep. I mean, it was insane. Like, when I saw that, I was like, you know what? Hayachi don't give a shit. He just wants to be powerful, and he just wants to win. He don't give a shit about nothing.
Who's number 2?
Number 2 is Hojo from Final Fantasy VII, and I believe, and it was between him and my number 1, which I'll get down to a little bit later. But I think without Hojo, Final Fantasy VII would not have a plot, because he was the mastermind behind the Genova project, and if you gotten into the storyline and really paid attention, if it wasn't for the Genova project, you wouldn't have Soldier. And if you didn't have Soldier, you wouldn't have that monopoly of power based off the live stream from Shinra Corps, because Soldier's the ones that enforce, like, hey, we're your source of power. This is the only way you're going to get it. Stop polluting our planet. We're going to send these genetically enhanced guys to beat your ass if you don't fucking listen to us. So, I mean, without him, I really don't think you would have a plot line for Final Fantasy VII, because the backstory, you wouldn't have an avalanche. You wouldn't have people bombing Mako reactors. So without Hojo, you wouldn't have that. And not just that, he didn't care about anything but, giving Shinra power or defending himself, which is proven with the boss fight where you end up actually fighting him where he has turned himself into some fucking savage beast.
And one thing to mention, actually, he's technically Sephiroth's father. He's the one, I believe, who injects Genova cells into Sephiroth. He's the one who makes him like that. So without him, Sephiroth wouldn't have been Sephiroth.
So, I mean, without Hojo, you wouldn't have a Final Fantasy VII storyline. So, obviously, I mean, I think he might be one of the most underrated villains in gaming history, because everybody likes Final Fantasy VII, but without Hojo, you wouldn't have a plot.
Right.
He is not the iconic villain, but you're right, he is certainly the one that makes the antagonist side of the game go round.
He's essentially the catalyst for the entire game.
Yeah, exactly.
He's basically the madman who sets all the events in motion. So
sorry, that's interesting, because when you first posted the article and when you first told me this, I had never thought about it at that angle. I love shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, it's one of those things you really have to think outside the box. Like, I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, and as a gamer, I always play games looking from a different perspective than like just the straight storyline. Like, how does this guy impact everything around the world? So he was huge to me.
Yeah, Final Fantasy really relied on like having like sort of like a Rocky movie where you have like this epic but almost equal antagonist you have to overcome.
Is this your third Rocky reference this podcast? That's
I don't want your judgment right now. And if you don't like it, you're probably a terrorist. So I'm gonna
Jihad.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes. Boom. So that's like what that game focused on. It was like a big just build up to fighting Sephiroth. You know what I mean? Who was like your character Cloud's antithesis. Sort of like how in FF8 it was all about the love. Like Renault was like the big sort of plot point in that. Even though the true villain, you don't even. I mean, you technically fight her as Ultimisia, but she's been around so long and possessed other people and all this other stuff. So it's one of those things where the game relies on its ability to manipulate you emotionally into thinking so-and-so is the villain. So, and Sephiroth is just considered cool by a lot of people. But Hojo is the crazy asshole who started everything.
Like, oh yeah, there would be no Sephiroth without him.
Yep.
And I mean, Sephiroth carries that long sword. He's obviously compensating for something. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion.
He's probably got a huge truck with like those little balls hanging off the back and everything.
And to your point, I guess Cloud doesn't have much girth himself, considering the sword he carries.
Oh yeah, but I mean, everybody knows that Cloud just wanted to be Zack, so he's kind of a bitch. I didn't like him either.
Yeah, they had like whiny protagonists for a minute there between him and Squall. Squall was worse though. At least like Cloud had been fucked up mentally and stuff.
And they didn't have the luxury of a direct sequel to the game to save those characters either. Unlike Final Fantasy 13, where Hope was the emo kid, and he turned into kind of a badass in 13 too.
Yeah, he's kind of a big deal in 13 too. So, good. I hated Hope. Anyway.
Moving on.
But, number 1 for me, and I mean, I could talk about Final Fantasy VII all day because you had so many side entries and shit like that. You could talk about Final Fantasy VII all day. But number 1, and it might sound biased if you read my article and there's 3 characters from Final Fantasy, but I just really feel that Square nailed it when it came to coming from antagonists because, I mean, you love to hate them. They're so fucked up that you just love to hate them. Like it's crazy, but it's Kefka. And I don't care what anybody says, he is by far the craziest villain of Final Fantasy. And if you don't agree with me, well, fuck you. I'm sorry. You didn't play the game all the way through, and you don't understand. But
He's talking to you, Jeff.
I mean, think about this. Not only are you getting punked by a guy that's dressed by a clown, but this guy doesn't give a shit about nothing. If he can't beat you like head on, he's gonna poison your water, or at least try to. And then on top of that, I mean, he has one of the most memorable evil laughs in video game history. I mean, a 16-bit laugh, and I mean, I can still hear it in my head every time I say Kefka. I hear it, and you know, I'll give you an example. It's like whoop whoop whoop, you know, like, and you hear it like 1,000 times in that game, but every time you hear it, it's just like this guy's sinister as fuck. But I mean, he works for the Empire just to gain power, get troops, get support, and then when they're at the pinnacle of their success, they got, spoiler alert by the way, but they got this success. They got the 3 Empress Towers of the goddesses up and lined up on a floating island, and he says, you know what, fuck this, and he stabs the guy he's been working for his entire life in the back and just says, you know what, I'm going to turn myself into a god and destroy the world. Fuck everybody. He doesn't care. And then on top of that, he starts stealing espers. He fucking turns their power into shit that he can harness. I mean, he is just fucking nuts. Not to mention, on top of that, and you can look up, and I've looked up, he has the longest theme in Final Fantasy history. It's 12 minutes and 36 seconds on the original track before it loops. The longest theme, most epic boss battle at the end that you will ever encounter in your life.
That's all good. What I think makes Kefka awesome is his combination of he's just fucking cool. He did like that Joker shit before Heath Ledger did it. You know what I mean? That's sort of like, oh, he's just crazy, because clowns are horrifying in a specific light, and by that I mean any light. They're always horrifying. But and then on top of that, you can't empathize with him. If you try really hard, you can think about Sephiroth and be like, oh, well, his genetics are all screwed up, and he's part alien, kinda, and there's all this other stuff, and he studied too long in the basement, and that upset me when I had to do it in 5th grade. So, like, you can't empathize with Kefka. He's just pure evil. All he wants to do is fuck everything up. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't even care if he fucks himself up in the process. Just fuck everything. That's all he wants to do. And that's what makes him, like, an awesome villain, because it's really simplistic. It's almost impossible to like him. If you find somebody who thinks Kefka would be like a good human being, you probably need to lock him up for life. There's no way he could ever be benevolent. He's just like insanity and a clown mixed together. So that's like insanity times 2 or whatever. But,
oh, yeah, you're totally right with that. And I think, like, if you weren't sold on Final Fantasy VI's storyline to make you love to hate Kefka, if you played Final Fantasy Dissidia or Dissidia Duodecim, the shit that he says just at the start of the battles, he's just an ignorant bastard. Whether he's fighting the Onion Knight and he goes, oh, I got to beat a shit out of a little boy today. Or, like, you know, he just says shit like that all damn day. He doesn't care. And then, like, his attacks in Dissidia, it's just so off the wall and unconventional that it's just like, this guy is really off the fucking wall.
I think one of the things I always said is that you could have switched FF6 and FF7. I think that the only reason FF7 got bigger than Final Fantasy VI was because of the technology. And in all honesty, I think with what they did in Final Fantasy VI, it could have taken better advantage of the technology and would have been amazing. With the espers that it had and Kefka as the villain. Like, Final Fantasy was sort of like the Titanic in that it was really huge, and a lot of it was based upon the time that it came out. Yeah. And if FF6 would have been on the PlayStation 1 and the first game to utilize all this crazy stuff, I think that you'd be seeing, you know, the FF7 sequels, all those extra things, at least that and more for Final Fantasy VI, because it was at least on par with 7, in my eyes.
Oh, I totally agree with you, and that's one of the things that shocked me when Square Enix came out with what was it? Final Fantasy IV After Stories. I love Final Fantasy IV. Probably my favorite RPG of all time, next to Shining Force 2. But I really feel like they could have done so much more with Final Fantasy VI along the lines of the world they created, the characters they created. They could have done so much more with it, but they just did not set a focus on it. I mean, the closest thing they got to it was Final Fantasy Analogies, where they had, I think it was 4 and 6 together on the same disc for PlayStation with some CGI cutscenes. But I mean, they didn't give them the love that they wanted. I mean, Final Fantasy VI was great in my opinion.
Final Fantasy VI was bigger than the technology used to create it. So it was limited by what they had to go with. Whereas Final Fantasy VII was just open. Here's a PlayStation. Here's a disc. Here's, a shitload of memory. Do whatever you want. So that's the way I look at it, personally.
Interesting. And Ed, that's a great list, Carl. I really enjoy your list. Your top 10 lists are pretty good. I'm gonna and this isn't my bias because we work for the same site. It's because I mean the top 10 lists you've done are like they're very thought provoking and well thought out, and I want to commend you. That's a really good list.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I mean, like for me, and I'm shocked at how many people. I mean, Hojo was the selling point for me for a lot of people because I've gotten comments, emails about it. Believe it or not, I did get emails about it. They're like, why did you put Hojo on there? And then once I really elaborated on it, they're like, I didn't realize how badass that guy was. And I was like, yeah, dude, like, he was the driving point for Final Fantasy VII, and nobody ever once spoke of him, because you fight him once, he might have had, like, maybe an hour and a half of gameplay where you actually, like, encountered him. But other than that, people like, oh, Hojo, I beat his ass, and, he's no big deal, whatever.
Yeah, once again, good shit. All right, that's Carl's top 10 list. Our little sideways comments. I only added one. I guess I'll close out the little segment with saying that I fully agree with Kefka, and I'll just leave it at that. I won't explain why. I mean, you guys touched on all of it. But before we close, I guess I wanted to touch on some site news. I guess this is my little section where I normally brag at the beginning, but I'm bragging. It's not bragging, it's just me feeling good about our progress. I've gotten in touch with Sega now. The Activision, Square Enix, Capcom, and a few others are, we're in the back door. We're working on relations with them so that we can expand our coverage of various games that they're putting out. Capcom actually directed me to some of their upcoming games that are going to fly a little bit under the radar, and that's our cup of tea. So be expecting some things out of us as far as that goes. And you know what? I will touch on, I'm starting up this new feature where I'm going to have some audio commentary on some of our articles, some of our special features. We'll go ahead and call it an audio supplement. You can read the article or just listen to the audio or do both, and we'll have a little bit of commentary on, I guess, expanding on what the article is trying to say. So I don't know how often I'm going to do that. That's, I think, the first step towards having more videos and more media on the site. And that's pretty much it. Carl, is there any other site news you wanted to talk about real quick?
I mean, I know I've been saying it the last two podcasts. I've really been working hard on a forums for you guys. Eventually, I want to put up a request for a review or a preview. If there's stuff that you guys really want to know about, either if it's mainstream or not mainstream, we want to hear from you. This site's driven towards the people that use it. Whether you're just a casual gamer, a real gamer, or a mainstream gamer, it doesn't matter. We don't care. We're going to cover the shit that you guys care about. So just let us know. And then the forums, I think, is going to be a huge tool for you guys, whether you're putting tips and tricks and stuff like that for games that you're playing, or for us just to really contact the community. I mean, we have a Facebook page right now, so we're talking to some people that use us. But I really want to get out there for it to be a more user experience. And yeah, you say use us, but I mean, that's what we're here for, is we're just regular guys. We play games. We like games. We have a passion for gaming. And we don't play the Call of Duties or Battlefield 3s every day like a lot of people do. So we just really want you guys to let us know what you think. And coming here shortly, at least I'm going to do it. Maybe I'm looking for once a week to do a throwback game, that has launched like within the last 10 to 20 years, whether it's an old Final Fantasy, an old platforming game like Vector Man that came out for the Sega Genesis. I want to cover that because, you know, you got emulators, granted that, quote unquote, if you don't own the game cartridge, you shouldn't download it. So I'm going to throw that out there. If you don't own the game, don't download it.
DRM.
DRM. And
We in no way condone piracy of video games.
yeah, don't pirate video games because the producers and the publishers and all that shit will get pissed at you and they won't make money and they won't want to make new games.
Yeah.
But anyway,
emulation is super cool, and I recommend anybody who owns a copy of the game to download the emulator and play it on your PC as well. But I don't condone piracy.
It's super convenient. But I want to throw out some things like I saw a couple hits the other day about underrated SNES games, so that really opened up my mind to say, you know, I played a lot of games when I was a kid, so I'm going to start doing reviews of older games that I've played and put it up there, so if it's something that might interest you guys, it's going to be up there. So that's some stuff to look forward to. We're constantly evolving, but once again, email any three of us, you know, TRG Carl at therealgamers.net, TRG Matt, TRG Jeph with the PH at the end of the JE, and then just let us know what you want because that's what we're here for.
All right. I guess we'll close the show with that. You have any closing words, Jeph? I'll give you a chance to say something if you want to.
Yeah, nobody ever actually answered whether fuse was spelled with an F or a PH, and that's still burning, you know, a burning question for me.
It's an F, and as a gamer yourself, you deserve an F for not knowing that.
That's too frightening.
All right, Carl, take us out.
Well, keep on gaming, gamers.